Monday was an exciting round of conversation. Tuesday was also equally enthralling, and it's now midweek. Definitely we'll be serving you with similar outputs. And as always, we're going to start off with the news review. Political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies, Dr. Kwame Asante, is going to be our guest on that note. When we get into the big stories for this morning, now the Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission has increased electricity tariff and water tariff by 29.96% and 3.6% respectively, 8.3, I beg your pardon, respectively. Now, the new rates take effect from February 1, 2023. This follows the conclusion of its regulatory process for the quarterly adjustment of utility tariffs covering the first quarter of the year 2023. How is this going to affect you, the consumer, and how are businesses also responding to this very development? Bernice Lansah will join us with the Citizens microphone to get your thoughts on this. Our guest on that matter is Alhaji Jabaru Abukari, Director of Regional Operations at the PURC. Alexis Derry is the Executive Member for the Center for Development Initiatives. He will also be sharing his thoughts on that subject matter as well. Now, as we do on every Wednesday, Kanketsi EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, will come your way with AM Business. Today, we'll be exploring the aviation sector as some private investors want government to include them in the plans to start the new Ghana airline, which has been announced and set to take effect this year. We'll also talk about the classroom projects. Now, talking about the classroom project, I'm sure you remember what we are doing at Breman Jamira. Well, we'll give you the latest on that project later on the show. And of course, as always, we'll open the phone lines for you to share your thoughts as well as through social media, your comments and your opinions on all the array of issues that we'll be discussing this morning. On that note, we're taking a breather. When we come back, the news is next. It's now time for the news. My name is Pakwisi Shandorf. Now, the former president of the Ghana Bar Association is asking government to safeguard the investment of citizens as a means of ensuring sustainability of the African continental free trade area. Samuel Okujeto, who is chairing the 74th Annual New Year School at the University of Ghana on Tuesday, said that this would help revive the economy. A report by Hannah Odame and Elisha Panford.
The 74th New Year School is being organized on the theme Positioning the African Markets for Sustainable Economic Development through AFTA. Speakers sought to explore options of how AFTA, which is hosted in Ghana, could benefit citizens and also increase profitable trade across the continent. Chairman of the New Year School, Sam Okujeto, was of the view trade can only be sustainable in a stabilized political environment.
So investment in human capital cannot flourish under political volatile environments. Facilitating and deepening security intelligence now, before and after must become our collective and shared experiences to safeguard investment for the sustainable and the future of AFTA, as well as development of the continent and our dear mother Ghana.
Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Mary Chinri Hesse, believed that competitive global trade with Africa can be realized if there are attractive yet identifiable brands.
We will also expect recommendations as to how business communities may prioritize, develop and implement smarter strategies to seize the rising opportunities in manufacturing and industrialization across a variety of sectors.
Another measure proposed by the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Nanaba Ampia Amfo was the need to boost income of citizens. Delivering the keynote address, Vice President Dr. Baumia highlighted plans the government has put in place to maximize the benefit of AFTA for the country.
In order to facilitate trade, the ongoing expansion of the Tema port, which upon completion will make it one of the biggest ports in Africa, the Takoradi port expansion, as well as the development of numerous road projects and railway networks are all testaments of government's resolve to leverage new market opportunities for the continent.
For JoyNews, Hannah Odame and Elisha Pamford's reports.
In addition to what you heard, the Vice President also announced that all senior high schools in Ghana will be provided with tablets to aid the academic work.
We've implemented free Wi-Fi in our senior high schools, and one of the things that I'm very excited for this year, the Minister of Education has told me that we are on course this year to provide all high school students in Ghana with tablets which are loaded with textbooks on them for their studies. That is very, very a game-changing development, if you will call it. And so we will have past questions and all of that preloaded on these tablets that will be distributed to all, and I pray that it does come to pass this year, but they are fully on course to do that.
Outside of the capital, now residents of 11 deprived communities in the Garu district of the Upper East region are unhappy about the delay by government to connect their areas to the national electricity grid. According to them, 3 years ago, the district assembly began work to bring electricity to their areas, but after the electricity poles and transformers were transported to the communities, the work suddenly stalled. Correspondent Albert Sole reports.
The 11 communities are across 6 electoral areas in the Garu district. The communities include Kolsuga, Pialugu, Kugupiela, Yiziduk, Bantafargu, Dusbuliga, among others. Development is gradually expanding in these communities, but they are currently without electricity, making life difficult for the residents. According to the people who live in these communities, they have to go long distances to other communities just to be able to charge their phones. Economic activities which require the use of electricity are also affected.
It has affected us a lot. We have been suffering. You see that if you turn, you see there is a store here. If you go forward, there is another one there. There are others around where we need to be selling certain things, where we need electricity to operate. We don't have electricity. We have to buy fuel to use generators. Now fuel prices went up. So all those stores have been closed down. For electricity, a lot of problems. Our mothers need electricity to do a lot of works, economic work that will give them profits. But because of the lack of the electricity, they are also sitting down there. They don't have anything to do.
Where you can stock your water or your drinks and take it to the market and then sell and get something. Here in the Kolsogo community, this thing is not happening. There's no light here. Because there's no light, children travel from here to town to go and watch news, to also know what is happening in the country. But I think if there's light in the community here, there will be televisions whereby children and people get educated about what is happening in Ghana.
Students in these communities are compelled to use torchlights or candles to be able to revise their notes at night.
Because we are students, and anytime we go to school and we come in the night to revise, there is no always light for us to revise. We have to always travel from a far away place. before we can get electricity to revise our notes. We have been praying and also talking to the authorities to help us to see whether we can get the electricity.
3 years ago, the Garu District Assembly had begun work to connect these 11 communities to the national electricity grid. The people were excited when they saw that electricity poles and transformers had arrived for the work to be done. But their excitement was short-lived as the work was not continued since then. District Chief Executive for Garu, Osman Musa, says plans are far advanced to connect the 11 communities to the national electricity grid in the first quarter of this year as part of government's rural electrification project.
In totality, we have up to 11 communities that have had progress of work at different levels. Kolsuga, in particularly where we are standing, the whole community has been wired. The lights has been stepped into the houses. Each house has been equipped with a meter. The high tension provision has been made. The low tension provision has been made. Transformers has been installed. But then from the preliminary checks, some poles will need to be replaced as they have been weakened because of they have stayed for long and they will need to be replaced. This among the 11 communities, we are determined as an assembly to power them in this first quarter of the year. About 49 other communities have been awarded materials under the SHEP project. And so we are also working closely with the Ministry of Energy to get all the materials delivered.
For the people of the Garu district, it is their hope that the DCE's words do not only remain mere promises, but will come to fruition as soon as possible. For Joy News, Albert Sori, reporting from Garu.
Now, residents of Amakom in Kumasi are concerned about the spike in robbery cases in recent days. Criminals have turned the neglected Kumasi Children's Park into a haven, subjecting unsuspecting public to armed attacks.
The Kumasi Children's Park at Amakom has been non-functional for over 2 decades. The enclave is overgrown and serves as a hideout for criminals who rob passers-by of their belongings. Residents and others commuting around the park often fall prey to these criminals.
So after several years of neglect and inactivity, this is the state of the Amakom Children's Park. The dilapidated Children's Park has now turned into a haven for criminals.
Residents want the park to be free of hooligans. Nothing works over here, so we are suffering as a community. There is nothing positive. There are always murder cases.
Now community na assemblyman ne committee for na the bia dey main road no
The main road is where they stand to stop people.
years ago.
They stabbed one man I know. He was coming from Afokwanta, and when he got down, they quickly rushed him.
He said, "Baby, what kind of kind of betcha? Yeah, Niso, that's the Ubine country. Yeah, I never cost so handy. In fact, airtime.
If I show chronon, a dozen were happy, sebo and numerous.
The criminal cases are enormous. You can't pass here at 7:30 p.m.
Boys too. Omufri nyuraimu across so kwanage su nam hase. Tiname de care baba kukuta brantain say. And we jina kwa ni vinti mi jina na me bo aben pe obeso obetwe ne ho kra opim se wo mo je gas na bag no no mo di mirika san be wura bushi hase.
I witnessed several robbery cases as well. It's devastating considering the schools around.
Just a near my a cost with children park and a dear a half dream papa. Because I come for some near with this somewhere costono a Dawson. Even so be for a crack air barn with Chemoas and yes, be a bear watch night ever ha. Nipani see ya on chance a card in Honiema. Boy be corporate. How much in bear say 4:30. Subs yes, so ya, Omuchano one second cono.
It's very worrying. You can't pass here at night. They stabbed a student of Kumasi Polytechnic not long ago.
Sorry, I'm matching bear, I'm a panel bear, 5 more be fahadia. A woodism ne cosso. Boys, no, Ejina Kona, or G. Wadia, or Jane at uranium no co. Inti Hana dear, you must yam penning for ne.
We would plead with the police to intervene. Nana Boachi Dankwayadom reporting for JoyNews.
Now, access to clean drinking water in Ghana has generally improved, but many communities are still in need of clean water sources. Now, following this development, 15-year-old Stephen Boache has developed a prototype system to help households purify their water using basic materials. Is one of the ambassadors for the Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Prize Initiative, which aims to equip junior high school students with practical STEM skills to solve societal problems. Joy Prime's Lois Adeyemi has more on the following report.
Bensiri, a village in the district of the Ashanti region, is one of many without potable water in Ghanaian villages. Residents here rely on a dirty and brownish water source for domestic use. Sadly, they also share the same water source with cattle and drink without any form of treatment. This has led to an increase in waterborne diseases in the community.
The problem that I identified in my community is diseases outbreak as a result of intake of unclean water. They drink with animals like cows.
But 15-year-old Stephen Boache, who hails from this village, is determined to make a difference. He has developed a water purification system that uses basic materials and 6 processes to remove dirt and pollutants from the water.
This is a water purifier. I'll connect my device. I'm going to add dirty water. I wait for some time so that the process can take place. One is having the filter paper and the foams and a net which traps the suspended particles. And from that, the other container also have an aqua tap and a charcoal, which decreases the rate of maybe when the water is having maybe a high acidity. The last container will have the filtrate, and if you want it to be cooled, you just switch on this so that you wait for some time, and after that you just take it.
Stephen is one of the ambassadors for the Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Prize, GSTEP, an initiative put together by the Dream Oval Foundation to equip junior high school students with practical STEM skills to solve societal problems.
So this prototype is going to help them. When it is being in the large scale, it's going to help them purify a lot of water for the whole community.
According to UNICEF Ghana, about 11% of the population still drinks from surface water and other unsafe sources. But Stephen is hopeful that his prototype, if given the needed support, will reduce waterborne diseases in his community. Bensiri. Lois Adeyemi's report for Joy Prime.
Meanwhile, the GSTEP exhibition and award ceremony is slated for January 25, 2023, and the venue is the Accra International Conference Center. Now, more than a year ago, the multimedia group launched the Classroom Project as a solution to 2 of the hundreds of weak school structures dotted across the country. The first project, situated at Breman Jamira in the Esikuma Odobin Brakwa district of the Central Region, is currently at the roofing stage and requires more funds for completion. Construction is, however, yet to start on the second project in Tolon in the Northern Region. Richard Konyonyako visited the Breman Jamira DA Basic School site on Tuesday and sent in the following reports.
So we are currently at Breman Jamira DA Basic School, and this is where 6 years ago the unfortunate occurrence where 6 kindergarten school pupils were killed. I mean, the building they called classroom collapsed on them and their lives were snuffed out. 6 years on, that building has been completed. But there is another building here that is a death trap. The children have their hearts in their mouth whenever they enter this building. So look at the footings of this building. All of these things are removing gradually. They are being removed and the building shakes visibly. Get here. This place shakes. As soon as you hit it slightly, then it shakes. It threatens to break away from the entire structure. So the kids do play, and unfortunately, if any of them should lean on this wall, then the unfortunate thing would happen. Now when it rains, rain seeps through the roofing heavily, and so classes have to be disrupted. Academic activities have to come to a halt. The school pupils have been telling us that they feel unsafe. They are afraid for their lives whenever it rains, because when it rains, the building, the entire building shakes very well, and they feel threatened, and they have the unfortunate occurrence 6 years ago on the back of their mind that something could happen. So what have you been learning today?
It is dangerous for us to learn in. When the rain enters the classroom will be very dirty here. So we don't want this class again. We want a new one. So we don't want this class, we want the other one there. We please them to help us this new building so that we can live comfortably in that new room.
Because when it is raining, our ceiling will be removing. The water will be coming inside this room, so we don't want this class again. We want a new one. We feel shaking. When the rain is falling, we feel shaking, we fear, so that the building will break in. So we want the government to build another school for us. We are telling them to come and help us to build the room, because we are begging them to come and help us to build the building.
Fortunately, the multimedia group decided to embark on a project and then build a classroom structure that could accommodate the kids. In fact, the kids are crammed in some of the classrooms, and it makes academic work very, very difficult. So this is the entire structure that multimedia has been working on, and it has gotten to the roof level, and we need your support. We need the support of the entire country. We cannot wait for any calamity to befall kids yet again in the name of accessing education, and that is why this project ought to be completed so that the kids can move in from the dilapidated structure they currently call the classroom into this new one. Get 60,000 Ghana cedis, the entire building would be completed and ready to be handed over to the school.
At the moment, we are at the roofing stage, and all we need is the roof members to come, and then the sheet will be on it. Then we'll do the ceiling joint, get the doors and the windows fixed. Then we come to a final stage where the tiling will come, and then also the jointing and pointing for this finishing will come. Then we are done. So at the moment, if I have to estimate, I would say we are like 70% done. We're just left about 30%. But the energy is not coming, and we need help to be able to rescue these innocent kids. Because some of us dedicated our time and energy and our knowledge, wisdom, and then this technology to come in and support. It costs me a lot, but it doesn't amount to human life. I mean, if I go to bed always getting scared that what if something happens to these kids, they will go like, they started but they couldn't complete it.
That's what is keeping you on.
Yes, that is what is giving me the energy to still try to push so that we can get this done and then hand it over to the community. Because these kids, look, the last time I was here, when we were on site, when it started raining, before I could say Jack, the kids, all of them came into the corridor just because they were scared that the roof of the structure could be lifted off.
How much are we talking about here?
Like I said, if I should do rough estimate, we need a little under 60,000 because you're talking about the woodworks for the roof itself. We need a sheet, we need the windows and the doors faced. You understand? And then workmanship, and then we need a ceiling or everything. That amount should be able to sort us out.
So I am appealing to you to help us, the multimedia group, to help with this project. Help us contribute your quota so that we will not be visited with any disaster. We will not come here to be reporting disasters, but we will be coming here to be reporting about the successes chalked by these students because they need to also study in environments like their peers, like their counterparts in other parts of the country. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejonya-Akon, Breman Jamra.
Here's where we draw the curtains on this morning's edition of the news. For more, log on to www.majoyonline.com. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. Stay. Welcome back on the show. Time now for us to dig into the papers, and we have good company this morning. A political science lecturer and the director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, joins the conversation. Doc, I see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Ben. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Hope you're well.
I'm very well.
We bless the Lord. Let's get into the papers, and a lot of the stories I'd like us to take a look at are in here, starting with the Daily Graphic. Mixed reactions greet new utility tariffs. Public wants government to intervene. Then PAC chides a sports authority boss over duties. And at 74th New Year School, take lead role in after Vice President challenges Ghanaian enterprises. When you go to page 5, the international page, President Obiang's son arrested for corruption. I'm talking about Equatorial Guinea. And a search is underway for 50 women abducted in Burkina Faso. On the back page, Bost donates 100,000 exercise books to school children, and pastor businessman caged 8 years for fraud. Let's start with that story on page 13, shall we, about the new utility prices. And it says the announcement by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission that tariffs are to go up effective February the 1st is being kicked against by a section of the general public who say it will worsen an already difficult situation, as generally the prices of goods and services have gone up. Now, people expressed worry that the proposed increment would affect their budgets, which had already been impacted by an increment in VAT and other taxes. A section of the public, the Daily Graphic spoke to across the country, made up of small business owners and traders, expressed reservations about the latest increases in utility tariffs, saying it would impact them negatively as the new tariffs would invariably affect their budget. They have therefore called on the government to, as a matter of urgency, consider the plight of most Ghanaians and intervene
by directing the PURC to rescind its decision. Doc, so today, my colleague Bernice Lansah will be out there hitting the streets, interacting with ordinary folk, some of whom watch our show, others who don't. But we'll be interacting with them, finding out what their reactions are to this development. And it's also been said that on the back of the latest COLA agreement, if you like, 30% giving to public sector workers, and then this increment, 20-something% for electricity, over 8% for water. In fact, almost 30% for electricity. It is simply going to erode what gains they would have made in the public sector. But again, we all know that you can't necessarily, someone's salary with a 30% increment may not necessarily reflect in an increment in electricity or water in terms of the real numbers. But what is your take on this increment at this time?
It's a difficult one. Why am I saying this? If you look at the condition we find ourselves, we are not in good times at all. Economy, we are struggling to maintain. We are struggling to, put body and soul together. Standard of living, very tough for everybody. So it's a bit worrying. I don't know how people are going to survive with this type of increment. But let's also look at it this way. Things are going up. Are we saying that utilities also don't use resources to produce power and then the things that we depend on? That's it's a difficult situation. But my view is that I know the practice has been that they always involve stakeholders. What was the position of stakeholders in this? Did they involve them and did they accept this thing? That is the crux of the matter. I believe that the stakeholders must look at it again. And then, if there's going to be an adjustment, it shouldn't be that much that will really affect the very survival of people. Otherwise, you are going to have difficulties, like the way it has started, people have started talking about it. But I know the utility players themselves are worried about the situation. But can they help out of this situation? I think stakeholders can help us out.
Well, we'll see how that goes. A few pages ahead, on page 20, we have that other story. And it says, PAC chides Sports Authority boss over duties. And the emotions and controversies actually surrounding sports transcended the field again yesterday when the Director General of the National Sports Authority, Professor Peter Twumasi, was taken to task over his handling of a number of issues at the NSA, including the poor handling of national stadia for social events. Before the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament sitting yesterday, Professor Twumasi was drilled for what appeared to be the appearing before the committee unprepared when the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the agencies under it appeared before the committee. First, the committee took a serious exception to Professor Twumasi's inability to furnish them with current documentation on the case involving the interdiction of a staff of the NSA when the same issue was dealt with last year. The committee also expressed concern for what appeared to be a poor working relationship the DG, that is the Director General, had with his sector minister and advised him to address same. Of course, the committee was chaired by Dr. James Kluchaveji, the Member of Parliament for Ketu North, and it was to consider the report of the Auditor General on the public accounts of Ghana's ministries, departments and agencies for the year ended December 31st, 2022. But a bit of what Prof had to say, he assured the committee that the field would be covered anytime a social event was taking place. He was referring to one of our stadia. When asked whether the NSA had materials for covering the field, he also responded in the affirmative. He explained that the NSA used what it had, but when the chairperson put it to him that the field was not covered during the National Democratic Congress event last year, that is the Accra Sports Stadium, Professor Twumasi said, per the agreement, the setup was to be on the AstroTurf. So that has to do with PAC sitting in Parliament and, as we know, ministries, departments and agencies being taken on. But in addition to this, what would be your reflection on sports? At the start of the year, we reflected on many things, including sports. And some of the leaders we spoke to cried foul about logistical support, about, look at the Theodora Oko hockey pitch now. in Accra. What do you make of this, and what do you make of sports in general in our country? Is there a downturn, do you think? Even at Chan, things are not going so well for us.
I think we have to admit that we have a problem with regard to sports. We have seen failures in a number of respects. We go play tournaments and there are problems. We come back, shove it under the carpet and move on. The next time, the same problem resurfaces and it comes to what? Hunters and all that. Look at the issue we're talking about, the issue of our maintenance of our stadia. That's a worrying situation. I remember when President Kufuor put in his all to make sure that we got the stadia in place to host the African Cup of Nations and all that. And today we are talking about maintenance of this all-important project, which taxpayers' money have been used to build. I mean, this culture that we don't want to maintain things that we'll spend money in. It's not the best. If we really want to save ourselves from, policies such as going to the IMF, policies such as what? Depriving ourselves of our very livelihood because we have, some of these are attitudinal problems, then the time has come for us to rise up to the occasion and then maintain the things that we put resources in. It's as simple as that. It tells you that those who are at the helm of affairs, there is something wrong with that. They are not getting their acts together. But I always ask myself, are people drawing salaries based on these things? I think supervision is a problem because if you have a supervisor who goes around to check the level of things, how they have deteriorated or otherwise, you would have known that there is always the need to improve your lot. So I think first you need to get the leaders to admit that there is a problem and then work towards finding a solution to that problem. Part of the solution is that we need a maintenance culture that should be sustained at all times. And then people who work there must also develop that habit that this property is ours. We are not working for government, we are working for ourselves. Once we develop that sense of responsibility, we defend and protect all the properties that we have. Look at the Constitution. It gives us the power that wherever we work, we should make a conscious effort to protect public property. Why are we in the state when we have that provision that tells us that we have a duty and, of course, a duty of responsibility to our state?
And tied to that, we want a coach who can deliver. That's according to Sports Minister Mustafa Yusuf. And he has given a firm assurance that a new Black Stars coach will be appointed as early as possible to handle Ghana's 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, that is the AFCON qualifiers, in March. Now, asked whether the coach being considered was local or foreign, the minister said what the country needed was a very competent coach who would deliver according to the expectations of Ghanaians. And in a related story, the deputy minister has tasked the Galaxies to beat Sudan, that is Evans Bobie Opoku. And of course, that is our next match. If we don't get a result in there, it could be catastrophic in the Chan tournament. Any quick reactions to that before we talk about the New Year's?
Let me come in on the issue of the coach. We have had this problem always. And it appears to me that we have no clue at all as to how to handle it. We've gone for foreign coaches. We've gone for local coaches, thrown all of them away and all that. Players, tied to the issue of coaches as players, do you make use of international, those who play outside the country or local? But I realized that there is something basic that is eluding us, right? How we'll be able to figure out the problem and deal with it. Look at the top football teams all over the world. It is a constant effort to make sure that they set their eyes on somebody to become a coach, that person always giving the resource, giving the training and all that. Do we give resources to our coaches to perform? Do we interfere in the work that they do? Do we, give them the free hand to operate? So it doesn't matter whoever you bring on board, that problem is going to caught up with him and he will not perform. More so, do we have a team that goes out to look for a coach that will be able to deliver what is expected of him? Always there's a politics associated with that. Somebody must go in for somebody that you can control and all that. I think we need a body neutral from all those players within the sports ministry that will select the best coach for us. A coach that will be able to know our problems, address them head on. And then a coach that is firm and then determined to win us what? Laurels all the time. We don't need a coach that can be pushed around, and always that's been our bane. Tied to the coaching, sometimes we lack players. This World Cup, we're saying that we don't have great strikers and all that. Then I asked myself, when I was a little boy growing up, I saw football played at the district level, regional level, national level, and there they hunt for talent. What has happened to that? We had even university academicals, right? Scholars who are great players. They draft them into the national team. We have the military who have great sportsmen. What have come of us that we can make use of those talents within the security setup who can help in playing the national team and all that? If you look at the story of Eto, he was picked from these processes from the local group and then developed to the highest.
You're talking of Samuel Eto?
Yes, right. Yes. He was picked from the local groups and then developed. We can Abedi Pele and Co. People identify them from the coast and all that. So what has happened? Always what will help this country, we shy away from that. And I'm sorry to say that if we are not able to deal with this, I'm afraid we will look for foreign coach, we will look for whoever. So far as we have interference, so far as we have less resources for them, so far as that, always we want to push them to the periphery of their work, I'm afraid we are not going to get results. This year, I believe that we want to be blunt, brutally frank with holders of political power that, look, they need to do things and do things right. Because when all these things fail, we're heading towards IMF World Bank, which you and I don't want to go.
Let's wrap with that story in the Daily Graphic. At 74th New Year School, take lead role in AFTA. Vice President challenges Ghanaian enterprises. And the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has charged empowered Ghanaian enterprises to be frontline actors of the new journey in the economic history of the continent under the African Continental Free Trade Area. He said the government was fully committed to the implementation of AFTA and would assist the process by fashioning and implementing a comprehensive set of policies that would empower the private sector to achieve its goal. Dr. Bawumia was speaking at the opening of the 74th Annual New Year School and Conference at the Great Hall of the University of Ghana in Accra yesterday. And he said AFTA would provide a new impetus and dynamism for the rapid growth of African economies and deepen the integration process. I'm sure you followed bits and pieces of this. And we also heard from the Secretary General of AFTA in a virtual address. I'm talking about Wamkele Mene. And he said a number of operational instruments such as the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System, non-tariff barrier tools, and AFTA Adjustment Fund had been developed to lower trade barriers and promote regional economic integration. But that's exactly what I want us to focus on. Regional integration. Even look at our sub-regional integration. Look at ECOWAS. Look at how it has fared. Look at AU and the problems on the continent, and whether it has not been a toothless bulldog in dealing with most of them. But you even try to cross over from one of our countries to another, even here in West Africa, and it's not that easy. It's not that fluid, business-wise and all that. Are we making the most of AFTA?
Oh, no, we are not. But this is a fine opportunity for us to build our enterprises and then develop our individual countries' economies. But here you are. We have not been able to do that simply because the enabling environment doesn't exist. All right. When you are crossing from one country to other, look at the hustle and tussle you go through. If you are looking at even money transfer, all right, not easy. I was a reporter when President Kufuor was in office. We visited La Côte d'Ivoire, and they were talking about a single currency that was going to come in no time. We are here. Where is that project? All right. It has fizzled out and then we don't see anything. The issue is that we need strong leaders who will look beyond their countries and see the light ahead and will be able to drag everybody or pull us along. Those leaders, we are yet to have them. Leaders who will be able to come up with policies that will drive this all-important program to fruition. We need also a group of people who will support these efforts and all that. But here you are, a whole mix of factors are militating against our development. Look at the sub-region. We have even coup d'etats threatening the stability of these countries. Not only that, we have terrorist programs also in stage, affecting or undermining the sovereignty of states and all that. Above all, we have leaders who are careless and mismanaging the economies, and then it doesn't even whet the appetite of people to go into entrepreneurship and create businesses that will take advantage of all this. And then you have leaders who are bereft of ideas that will move these beautiful programs into fruition. So always we have what? Problems affecting integration, problems affecting common market, problems that affect the very survival of individuals. And then we shy away from this and move into other jurisdictions in search for all these opportunities. They are here. If we are able to create the enabling environment, it will work for us.
It will not work. Let's take a look at the Ghanaian Times newspaper very quickly. Some of the stories we've already looked at, but interesting add-on to the story about, getting a coach who can do the job. Nationality won't count in selection of new Black Stars coach. That's according to the sports minister, Mustafa Yusuf. Nationality won't count. At the last World Cup, interestingly, we had all African coaches for the African teams. Does this mean that this time round we could have a foreign coach once again? We know that Kwesi Appiah has expressed interest in getting the nod if he was given the opportunity. But would a local coach be considered one more time?
But does it matter what Brochure said? I mean, does it matter who becomes the coach? We need somebody who can deliver what is expected of him as a coach, but not the color of your skin and all that.
Right.
If all that we need is a human being who is competent enough to lead that group of players to victory, that's all.
Let's also look at this. Couple takes 37 military hospital to task. Why? Because of an issue of a missing twin. That story is on page 14. I'm highlighting it because I've even had to deal with one of these issues in the past, and it is a very recurrent, rampant affair. So when a couple in Accra walked into the 37 military hospital maternity unit, they were expecting twins, but they were stunned to be handed a single baby after delivery. They are accusing the staff of the hospital of allegedly being responsible for the, quote, disappearance of one of the freshly born babies, supposed to be the other twin, delivered at the hospital. The delivery was done through cesarean section on Thursday, September the 8th, 2022. Now, a visibly distraught mother of the supposed twin, 38-year-old trader Audrey Japong, and her 54-year-old husband, Daniel Nau, are suspecting foul play. Narrating their ordeal to the Ghanaian Times in Accra, the couple recalled that an ultrasonic check done 31 weeks into the gestation period at two medical facilities disclosed that so including the 37 military hospital itself, showed that Ms. Japong was carrying two live fetuses, that is, twins. The Ghanaian Times' painstaking investigation suggested that the first scan report, which was signed off by Dr. Otu Dankwa, was conducted on April 22, 2022 at the Serica Diagnostic Services at Latebiokoshi in Accra when the pregnancy was 20 weeks. Its results showed live intrauterine, that is inside the uterus, fetuses. Furthermore, a second ultrasonic scan conducted at the 37 military hospital on July the 21st, 2022, and signed by Doctors M.T. Mpete and R. Asiedu, a resident and senior physician respectively, confirmed the results of the earlier scan, with twin A weighing 269 grams and twin B weighing 261 grams. I just had to take time to go through that story because, like I've said, we've heard of such instances in other medical facilities. And I really do not know how we're going to stem the tide of these developments. Some say sometimes these children are sold off. I mean, where it is indeed the truth. There was an instance where in one hospital, which name I will not mention, the couple involved said this had happened, and the hospital claimed, not in this issue, but in that issue, that the baby had been buried. Okay, produce the body, they could not. Your take, Doc.
It is becoming one too many in a number of health facilities in this country that we hear such gory tales of real human rights violations. I mean, it undermines the confidence that we have in such hospitals. So if this story is anything to go by, I think the authorities at the 37 must be interested in this and go into it and let us know the truth. Because we have heard stories. I sit here, I don't want to share my story about these things, all right? And it's a very sorry story that I don't want to go near. And that I believe, and we are challenging 37 to come out into and look into this and come and furnish the public with all the full details so that they can save their own image and the image of those who work there. Those who are the bad nuts working there to undermine the name of the hospital, all effort must be done to, take them out and then hand them over to the law, the legal processes. Because you hear, there was a time we had hospitals where human parts and all that, these things, then you ask yourself, do we have security people there? And it becomes more worrying when you have a military hospital where we believe is the epitome of discipline and all that. One is expected to have something more than what we are hearing. I think those in authority, if they are listening, they should listen with rapt attention. We demand answers to this, and we are not going to sit down for these things to go on. Otherwise, when people decide not to go for antenatal and postnatal, would you blame them? Then government policy has failed in that direction. And I think that this is the time that all of us must rise up to the occasion and deal with these matters using the legal approved routes, and so that we can, stem the tide. It's becoming too much, and it undermines the authority of the hospitals and all that. Let us remember that all those who work there are in cahoots or they undertake this type of illegal programs, but that the few bad nuts who exist there are doing this thing to undermine the authority of the cause. I think it is incumbent upon 37 to rise up to the occasion and then get into the matter and come and furnish us with the information that we want to hear.
Doc, we have some 2 minutes. Let's kill a few stones with those bits of time that we have. I'll do some stories from 3 newspapers, starting with Economy Times. Bank of Ghana likely to continue monetary tightening, and dollar supply to BDCs slashed. That is the bulk distribution companies. It has been slashed to $200 million for the first quarter of 2023 from $450 million during the same period in 2022. For January this year, the central bank would auction $80 million for the BDCs, while in February and March, it would auction $60 million each. In that same paper, analysts predict tougher times ahead for the economy and businesses, and they are saying that businesses looking to expand this year will face very severe challenges. According to a business analyst, David Ofosudote, while many businesses had not envisaged such a harsh economic terrain coming into the new year, the prevailing crisis means companies would have to adapt and probably shelve some of their plans in order to weather the storm. So we can look at that as one. Most of the stories in the Daily Guide we've seen in the past few days: Nana Wu's Abu Dhabi investors, Bank of Ghana allays gold for oil policy fears. But we can talk about I've not committed any crime. Kusi Boateng, I'm talking about Reverend Kusi Boateng. And of course, that issue, yesterday I had someone actually break down part of it to me. The fact that, it's kind of like when maybe your dad doesn't really take care of you. That kind of scenario. Not necessarily in this case, but maybe your mother doesn't give you that name for a while, and then later you decide you want to take on the name. I guess the only bit was the legal changes that may not have been done, but now it's resulted in issues, and it's before Shraj, so we'll leave Shraj to take care of that. Finally, the Chronicle, Sino-Hydro abandons projects over IMF deal and lays off 304 workers on TADI, that is the Takoradi flyover, after paying them 3-month salaries. Quick take, and we're gone.
Yeah, Sino-Hydro. They've started, we are not in IMF yet, but we have started seeing some of the effects of mismanagement of economy, where it will lead us to. And one is through what? Layoffs and all that. Growing up, I saw the impact of, SAP, Structural Adjustment Program, and the rest of it. So I always want to believe that our leaders must be very careful when they are handling the economy. And that when people see the dangers and they tell them, they must be humble enough to listen to them and be guided by that. Because once the economy begins to degenerate,
right,
or we head towards IMF, it doesn't bode well for anybody. Look at the difficulties that we have ourselves in. I listened to the former chairman of Parliamentary Select Committee on Finance,
right,
and the things he was talking about the economy and where we are heading towards. I couldn't sleep, because if that is the case, then we are in really difficult times. So I believe that holders of political power would take this lesson seriously,
right,
and then be guided by it, so that next time when giving opportunity to govern, they will govern and govern well.
Doc, grateful, so grateful for your time with us this morning, and wishing you the very best of the day. Thank you, Doc.
I wish you the same.
Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante is a political scientist at the University of Ghana. He is also director of the Center for European Studies at that university. Before we go, a very happy birthday from me, from Baby Ya, from Sister Vida, to Miriam Awujifa Vojogbe. Today is your birthday. May God engulf you in his goodness, blessings, and mercies, and may his grace always lead you to the path of greatness in everything you do. Happy birthday to you. Enjoy the day. And there's also to my own pal, Gladys Oredu. Today is your birthday as well. And to Ibrahim Ben Bako, my colleague here at the Multimedia Group. Happy birthday to all of you. Finally, this is from a colleague of mine, Samuel Mbura. It's a special birthday dedication to, you say, one of your favorite aunties, CEO of BOQ in Bolgatanga. You say, I pray for the Lord's mercies and favors as you achieve another milestone in your life. Auntie Janet, you shall continue to flourish in all you do. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to all of you. Right before we get into sports, is the grand finale of the Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Prize Challenge. 50 schools from Greater Accra and the Ashanti regions are going to slug it out, and they are ready to showcase the prototype products aimed at solving societal changes. Which team will emerge winner of the G-Step Challenge? The finals will be held at the Accra International Conference Center. The date, Wednesday, the 25th of January, 2023, I beg your pardon. Time, 3 p.m. sharp. There'll also be an exhibition by our young ones as they seek to provide solutions to the myriad problems in our environment. So you make a date with us. Be a part of the first ever award ceremony to reward our future innovators and inventors. G-Step Challenge is organized by Dream Oval and supported by Foundation, Botner, and Joy Prime. On that innovative note, let's delve into sports.
Let's do sports now on the AM show with me, Muftawo Nabila Abdullah. Last year, the Auditor General report revealed that the National Sports Authority have got issues when it comes to the maintenance of the sporting facilities they are in charge of. One of such facilities was the Accra Sports Stadium, noted to be the venue for many events, including musical concerts. Well, on Tuesday, the Director General of the National Sports Authority and the Minister of Youth and Sports appeared before the Public Account Committee to answer questions on whether Monies raised from events are enough to be able to maintain the facility. We hear from the Director General, Professor Peter Chumesi.
You know, the National Sports Authority owns, on behalf of the state-owned facilities. And you know, a stadium is actually a multi-purpose in function, which can be utilized for many other activities. Many sports, in fact, our 47 sporting associations, all of them have place in there. But there are also other non-sporting activities like other entertainments, which can also be accommodated. And I think our political parties, this is not the first time, but I think last year in particular, we received the National Democratic Congress that came in to also do their Congress successfully. The New Patriotic Party was also there.
The question is, the revenue that you generate from hiring a place, is this sufficient enough to repair the damages? You are talking too much.
Yes, what we generate helps to repair. For damage to the facility, I think I would say it's not really of a burden. The positive aspect of revenue generation, which is very positive for the running of the organization, especially when you look at the last year, the budget that you approved for us. By end of it, we got, yes, we realized the goods and services we receive only about 287,000. So this IGF arrangement that we do are harmless to the infrastructure, and it's a good way of the organization also to generate revenue. Yes, yes.
Sir, Mr. Chair. Director General, can you give assurance to this committee that you do as we are requesting?
Yes, yes, Honorable Chair. I said yes.
Okay, yes, you do that. Do you have what you're going to use to cover the field? Do you have them already?
Yes, Honorable Chair, we do have materials for covering, except that, as my Chief Director indicated, there are better technologies that can cover and preserve better than what we have now. And
why are you not using what you have now?
That's what we are pursuing.
Why are you not using what you have now? Why?
It's a huge investment, Honorable Chair. No, what we have now, we use.
You use?
Yes, but
the last time I entered the stadium, you didn't cover anything.
Oh.
You didn't. I was at our Congress, NDC Congress. I was there. You didn't cover the field.
Nothing was there. The NDC Congress in particular,
yes.
If you look at the usage per the agreement we had, then the setup were to be on the AstroTurf,
okay,
and leaving the grass material,
okay,
yes, on time.
Anyway,
but later we saw people streaming. Yes,
actually.
Yes. That's the thing. Yes.
But with respect to the MPP Congress, we used the field, and it was not covered. No, you see, I'm only saying this so that, because you see, your minister says that on several occasions he has directed you, but you have done nothing about it. And if you were to look at the cost involved in repairing the field after every event, Shatawale recently held an event. It covered the entire field. So, Director General, take it serious. Yes, we don't have event centers, but we have the sports stadium. But at least for the green grass, let's protect it for the football, please.
Honorable Isaac.
And talking of football, the Black Galaxies, they are in action in the ongoing Shan tournament in Algeria. In their opening game, Ghana lost 2-1 to Madagascar. The Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports paid the team a visit, and he assured them that all bonuses owed them has been sent to the Ghana Football Association, and the accountant will begin to pay them into their accounts pretty soon.
Just to encourage you that the nation is so behind you. The whole country believe that you can make it. And then I have just been told that the checks that I promised you are with the FA office now. The accountant has delivered all the checks. Again, the outstanding per year as I speak to you, is also ready. So in terms of motivation and what have you, like I said, the president has ordered that the ministry should do everything possible to make sure that what is due you is paid. Going into the finance game, hopefully Thursday, I have a strong belief and conviction that you will make it. You will make it. The officials here, the FA president, his team, myself and board chairman, we are behind you in prayers and everything. So don't be down. Be encouraged. At least you have the opportunity to correct what happens to us in Qatar. You have that opportunity. I just want you to put that behind your minds.
To boxing now, and Isaac Dogwe, he's preparing for his world title bout against Roberto Ramirez on April 1, and he's also projecting the possibility of staging these big fights at home. Dogbe, whom in 2017 and 2018 hosted two world title fights in the country against Xavier Chacon and Cesar Uros, believes that with corporate support, he and his team will be in position to be able to host some of the best fights in the country.
Can really do a lot in a person's life, especially in my life. You know, it's really done amazing, and my team have worked tremendously hard, you know, securing this deal, bringing it to the table, and you know, just working with Niche Coco and all other sponsors who are also present. Look, it's amazing to have, for them to recognize the hard work that we are putting in, or we put in over the years, and you know, moving forward. Now it's not just Isaac Dugbe, it is Isaac Dugbe and Niche Coco moving forward together. You know, it goes to show that, yeah, corporate Ghana is seeing the efforts that we are putting in. You know, we can only thank God and thank the people who paved the way for us. And now we are also carving our own niche in the market of boxing. And, you know, in a few years to come, there's going to be more exciting fighters and more exciting fights. And we are hoping that in the, you know, in the near future, rather than going out there to fight, we'll be bringing the fights here to Ghana.
That's a very important point you've raised, and I personally am also looking forward to that. In terms of the timing, I mean, you're out there all the time. How close do you think we are? Because people are yearning for that kind of entertainment in this side of town. I mean, people are coming all the way, you know, for the holidays, going to all of these big music festivals, then boxing should be able to catch up.
Of course.
How soon do you think this can happen, looking at the resources available and the way, you know, brands are positioning themselves with resources and all of that?
Well, look, given the current economic situations, I think we have a little more time, you know, because corporate Ghana has to come on board in order for we to be able to bring those fights here in Ghana. You know, over the years, whilst I was fighting in Ghana, I wasn't getting paid. You know, I had over 10 fights in Ghana. I didn't get paid, but people, you know, when you're winning, everyone thinks that, oh, Isaac Dugbe is fighting. Oh, he's making a bag. Yeah, I mean, he's getting checks. But it's not like that. It's a sacrifice that we had to do. But if we have to bring people from over there to come here, corporate Ghana has to come on board fully, you know, and the government has also encouraged corporate Ghana to also get involved. That way, we'll be able to do that. Other than that, then, I mean, the fight in itself is tough as it is, you know. We put our lives on the line, just like each time we step into the ring. Yeah, I believe that people of the public is ready for it, because if they can pay certain amount of money, you know, to go to all these other festivals, you know, in Ghana, music festivals and stuff, yeah, they'll be more likely to also pay to come watch the fights.
It's the AM show with Benjamin Akakpo and Bernice Lansah. Welcome back. Now, we're going to be telling you about, well, the latest when it comes to the Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission, which has increased electricity and water tariffs by 29.96% and 8.3% respectively. Now, the new rates take effect from the 1st of February 2023, and it follows the conclusion of its regulatory process for the quarterly adjustment of utility tariffs covering the first quarter of 2023. But we ask, how is this going to affect you, the consumer? How are businesses going to take this? We know that they're not going to be on so much of the losing end commercially. Bernice Lansah will join us with Citizens Microphone to get your views on this. But joining us in the studio for a discussion, well, virtually, I should say, our guest, Alhaj Jabaru Abukari, is Director, Regional Operations with the PURC. There's also Alexis Derry, Executive Member, Center for Development Initiatives. Both of them join us for this conversation. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Thank you very much.
And I think I'm hearing a response, but it's very low. Hello? I'm hearing a response, but it's very low.
Good morning.
Okay, so I hear one of you listening to me or watching me on a television set. Please move away or lower the volume on the set because we're getting feedback from what you're watching me on. I don't know which one of you yet. So let's just do this. Alexis Derry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, my brother.
Great, loud and clear. Alhaj, can you hear me? All right, so we'll try to work it out and get Alhaj back on the line. But Mr. Derry, in terms of what we have to face now, people have spoken about what this would mean, this latest increment. But let's start from the processes involved. I would have wanted to start the conversation from there with Alhaj in terms of what processes come to bear when the PURC increases these utility tariffs. This would be the second time in about 6 months that we're seeing an increment. For you, what does this mean in very basic terms, Mr. Derry?
I mean, it means, particularly talking about the vulnerable in particular, it certainly will have an impact on smoothing their household consumption in terms of disposable income. And more importantly, when we are talking about the vulnerable, I will always want to look at what we as a society have set aside to cushion those who actually don't have in terms of government planned social interventions like the LEAP. So I will be more interested in hearing what went into the processes as well. But yesterday, I did some check and I saw that on the PURC board, they have such a very fantastic representative of CSO's representation. And he has also done a lot of work on tariff increases and its implications on the vulnerable. So for me, I would be more interested in finding out to what extent have they factored in the voice of the voiceless, who in many instances, when we are talking about consultation, the consultation sometimes does not even involve them because there's a vast difference between consultation and effective participation. So for instance, you do the consultation, and if the people don't have what it takes to make input into the discussions, what is it? They will only be counted as part of the statistics, as part of the numbers who have been part of it. So I will be more interested in finding out, number one, to what extent has the vulnerable been included? Then number two, I will equally be very interested in finding out, this has been something I've been thinking of, to what extent has the PURC or does the PURC make use of the Ghana National Household Registry, which is a fantastic database under the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection, funded by the World Bank with DFID, which means that if we want the households that are poor, we can equally get them. So it means that it makes it possible for effective targeting. And once we are talking about tariff increases, it means then that if we want to deliberately see how we can cushion the impact on poor households, we have the data. But you know, as a country, many instances, we have these fantastic institutional arrangement in place, but lack of collaboration, lack of consultation. They don't talk to each other. So when we get the PURC person, let's ask him a direct question. Whether they are aware of the existence of this Ghana National Household Registry, a very unique thing to make sure that when you want to do social intervention, proper, effective, targeted, you get the data. So it is not about we don't have the data, it will be difficult because they are missed out and all that. I will be more interested in that. Then once as the discussion progresses, I will filter down more directly to the impact on the household, particularly the social protection, LIP, and then the challenges they also have. Because that's the only source of livelihood that some of these vulnerable people can access.
Right. Thank you for those initial comments, Mr. Derry. And yes, we'll be going to Alhaj as well to find out what his take is when we have him. But I am joined by Kofi Ejay, my colleague here at the Multimedia Group, who will walk us through some dynamics when it comes to the latest utility tariff increments. Kofi, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure having you. I guess this morning we had to wake you up pretty early. Our apologies for that. But what is the latest that you can share with us in terms of the dynamics of utility tariff increments over time, over the last few periods of increments? We know that in the last 6 months there has been a 2-window increment. What can you tell us in respect of that?
All right, so very well. There's what the PURC called the major tariff adjustment, and then there's also what we call the quarterly, review. So what they did was to review for the first quarter of 2023. But before this year, there was a major tariff review in 2022. Remember that in 2022, both ECG and then Ghana Water Company, they all submitted their proposals to the PURC requesting for an increment in electricity tariffs. They cited a lot of reasons based on which they felt that they needed some upward adjustment. And so if you look at the data that they submitted to the PURC in 2022, which is last year, Ghana Water Company wanted somewhere around 334% increments in electricity tariff, maybe across board. We saw ECG also requesting for 148%. But when, the PURC finally agreed upon consultations, they came to conclusion that they could not, grant these two utility companies their earlier, requests. So we saw Ghana Water Company getting just 21.55% of what they requested for. And then also ECG getting somewhere around 27% of what they requested for. There was a huge variance between what they requested for and what they actually got. But PURC, based their decision on what the economic indicators, the prevailing economic indicators then, around the time that they actually approved the new tariff, we saw the city was a bit stable. And then inflation, although was still in the double-digit zone, it was not around the kind of level we see currently. So they had to, agree on these two adjustments. But if you look at what we saw at the dying numbers of the year, the city was doing well, but somewhere around, August to October, the city really lost, a significant amount of its value. It lost close to 54% of its value to the dollar. We saw inflation rising from the 13% that we began the year with. And we know that the year ended with an inflation rate more than 54%. So if you look at the first graphic that you just showed, PURC said that when they were doing this first adjustment, they have assumptions that they used. And the first assumption was that in August, when they actually approved the utility tariff, they used an exchange rate of $1 is to 7 cedi 50 pesos and inflation of 10.06%. but they are forecasting that in the first quarter of 2022, they see $1 to the cedi around 10 cedi 54 pesos, and then inflation maybe coming down to 42.63% if you hold other things constant. And so we've been tracking the various adjustment that PRC have had over time, but these are the main reasons, plus other reasons, the cost of gas and other things that they cited in the press statement, that based on this 4 reasons, there were actually 4, they cannot decide to hold the current tariffs the way they are. So we have to get an upward adjustment. So we've seen that if you are a lifeline user of electricity, if you consume between 0 to 30 kilowatts hour, your tariff has actually gone up by more than 21%. You now be paying, instead of the 42 pesos, you'll be paying 54 pesos. And those consuming between other residential users consuming between 0 to 30 kilowatts hour, instead of paying 89 pesos, you'll be paying 1 cedi 15 pesos. And those who are non-residential, users, instead of paying, some 33 pesos, you'll be paying 1 cedi 8 pesos. But then I've also been looking at the current inflation figures, and we've been tracking inflation for both utilities, water and electricity. For the 54.1% inflation rate that we currently see, the top, drivers, electricity and then also water, all have inflation rates above, 82%. So if you look at all these, and then plus other factors, then the PRC think that you cannot leave the utility company still in this this condition, because they fear that there's a probability if they do not do this, we probably will return to the doomsday area zone where we had we had to share power. But they feel that if we are able to do this, it will help us to cut anything like under recovery or over recovery, probably in the first quarter of the year. But over the years from 2010 to 2022, we've seen a lot of tariff adjustments. We can count about 30 of them, of which 12 of them have been upward adjustments, 2 have been reductions, and 16 have been no change. They've been held constant. We are looking at the main adjustments. Within these main adjustments, you can still have a subset of other adjustments, which, just like we saw for 2022, the upward adjustment we saw was supposed to cover 2022 to 2025. It means that PRC, they still have the right to either adjust upward, downward, or still maintain the rate within a certain, a certain quarter based on the prevailing market indicators. And so, if you look at 2010, for instance, when the main adjustment was done, it was an increase where we saw in June that PRC came in to increase the tariff. So, if you can show the color chart that we have for our audience to look at, if you look at it, our viewers can see that if you see a color in red, it simply means that PRC had to upwardly adjust the electricity tariff. If you see it in yellow, it was maintained, and if you see that there's blue, it means that PRC did not do any major, electricity or water tariff, upward or downward adjustments. And you can see the color charts for yourself. A lot of reds we see in there. We also have some, blue in there, but it's rare to have tariffs being held constant because of the precarious nature of some of our economic indicators. This morning I was checking the dollar to the cedi, and it's currently above $1 to 12 cedis. It's above 12 cedis now. And inflation, for instance, although the rate is 54.1%, we've been checking the rate of increase, and we've seen that the rate of increase has actually slowed down. We are hoping that...
Which is what I mean, we've heard the central bank's governor hint at as well that it will still keep increasing. We've heard from business people say it will still keep increasing, but at a lower rate, because the last time, I mean, before December, I think November's was about a 10-point gap, if I recall. Then December, we saw, just about a 3-4% gap. So it means it is slowing down. When it will actually plateau, that we do not know yet.
Yeah. So basically, that is it. We are just hoping that inflation will plateau in the first quarter of 2020, as we are all projecting. And this will really help us, because you can't have these two utilities, both water and electricity, all recording very high inflation. We've been looking at the data, and you realize that anytime we release the headline figures, both water and electricity, they all record inflation rates above the headline figure. And to have a headline figure of 54.1%, it will indirectly, translate into some of these utility items having more inflation rates. So above 82% is not acceptable, because it's supposed to remain affordable, especially for those who are lifeline consumers. Remember that the lifeline consumer, brackets, I remember when PRC issued their statement when they did the first major adjustments in 2022 last year, was actually broadened from 0 to, I think, 50 kilowatt-hour. They are still maintaining the 0 to 30. I don't know when they'll implement the 0 to 50, but it's important for lifeline consumers to also be cushioned, because if you keep increasing the price, then it means accessibility is going to be an issue. Remember that these lifeline consumers also have, kids going to school. They will need light to study. They also need light to perform their basic activities, and then they will need the light to also be maintained or be somewhat, affordable. So for lifeline consumers to also have such a hit is a major challenge. For industries as well, it's a major challenge, because if you look at water, for instance, the upward adjustment that the PRC did for public, stand pipes, you see that they are increasing it from some 4 cedis, 49 pesos, to now 4 cedis, 80 pesos. And those who are non-residential users, from 1 cedi, 12 pesos, to 1 cedi, I think 21 pesos. And so if you look at this data, you realize that it's business-wise, those who are producing sachet water isn't really good for them. Because if you look at the Ghana Sascal Service data, we rely, our population rely a lot on sachet water as the major source of drinking water. And so we must find ways and means to make sure that the price, stays the same, or maybe even if there's going to be an increase, the inflation rate shouldn't be as we saw in 2022 last year. And then it should be affordable, because 2 years or a year ago, you could afford a sachet water for 20 pesos. But now, if you do not have 50 pesos, it will be hard for you to even get sachet water. And we've seen bottled water prices also going up. A year ago, you could get bottled water for 1 cedi 50 pesos and 1 cedi 20 pesos. It's now 2 cedi 50 pesos, and some even around 5 cedis or even 3 cedi 50 pesos. So if you look at all these, this data that we've shown you, if PRC has decided to increase the tariff, then we probably will have translating into some increments in water and then electricity in the days to come.
Kofi, thank you so much for walking us through all of this. But I have an interesting bit right before you go. We were told at a point in time that commercial users would be the least affected when these tariff increments come up. Is that reflective in what we're seeing? That, usually it is the commercial users, because they are using it commercially, they should be getting some rebates because they are using it for industry and all of that. And residential users have, over the years, rather benefited more, seemingly. What can you say about that right before you take leave of us?
Well, I think the PRC did well. To me, I feel that it was 8% across board. Now, if you look at this 8% across board, I do not have access to detailed data on each of the categories. But I feel if it is 8% across board, that is the average. But if you look at what I'm looking at here, the non-residential category from 1 cedi 12 pesos to 1 cedi 21 pesos, it's an upward adjustment, all right, but it's not as huge if you really compare it to what we've seen in electricity. So for water, the increment is less than what we saw in electricity. It's around 21%. Water is 8% across board. But I'm sure that, if we have the breakdown of the data, we'll see and then probably calculate, we'll be able to check the trend and see if this particular adjustment is smaller if you compare it to relatively to other, upward adjustment. But it's 8% across board, and 8% across board is relatively less than what we saw for electricity.
Thank you so much, Kofi Ajay, for giving us that insight into these matters. He is on our research desk. Let's get back to the conversation with our guests joining us via Zoom. We have Alexis Derry, Executive Member, Center for Development Initiatives. I'm sure that has given you even more scope into the dynamics of what these latest increments mean. But we also have Alhaj Jabaru Abukari. Alhaj, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much.
Great. So we've had a lot of talk about the latest tariff increments in 2023. The request by the Ghana Water Company Limited was for 334%. You gave them 15.5 times less of that, which is 21.55%. And then when we look at electricity, they were looking at some 148%, which is some 6.68 times less in terms of what they have got. So in effect, we're looking at some 29-point-something% for electricity, 8-point-something% for water. But what went into these permutations, these dynamics? People are talking about inflationary rate and everything. Walk us through what went into pegging these utility tariff increments at what we see.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you and your viewers. I will first of all want to thank the colleagues who have already spoken, specifically to your data analyst, Kojo, who has done my work for me.
Kofi Ajay.
Kofi Ajay, who has done the work of the PURC, because we have data available. I think the analysis he has done is very, very comprehensive, looking at what has historically been decisions taken by the Commission and the data available. I think the only thing I would like to add to what analysis that he did was the hydro mix, which has an implication on the cost. You see, the hydro mix in the last decision that was taken by the commissioners was around 20, and currently is 26. And the implication is that hydro is cheap. That means that it brought down the cost of doing the supplying the power to consumers. So invariably, the percentage of increase would have been more if we had the same hydro allocation. So that is just one that I would like to add. To come specifically to your question, I have seen that most of the utilities just are business people like any other person who is running any sort of commercial business. What normally will happen is that they use market rates. If they are doing their projections, they do their projections based on the rate at which they get their goods and commodities. And when they submit these proposals to the Commission will now, through its own various checks, do independent verifications and data using state agencies. So we cannot go and use the exchange rate that is quoted by the forest bureaus. We will have to use the reliable forest bureau, the reliable rates, that is the BOG one, the interbank ones. And we normally will use historic data and projections, and that is how you will see that we'll have less ones. Then also, there were some projections that were made by the utilities, online loans, and this government had to take a decision to take the online loans. Government had taken the loans and asked them to pay. So as part of the consultations, the commission will always consult the various stakeholders. So if you want it to be passed on to consumers, looking at the economic situation, will you want Ghanaians to pay? And I think the government held on to the online loans, so it was one of the issues. Then also, they will also have some returns. So if there are online loans and you put in your investment, you need some returns. So some of these returns they had to defer some the returns, and that was the reason why you will see some sort of gap between what they requested and what was granted them. I think there was some issue that was raised by Kofi with regards to the lifeline reduction. Historically, the 50 kilowatt per hour was done looking at some studies. And at that time, we had the incandescent bulbs, which were not energy saving. So most of the gadgets we had then were not energy saving. So now that we have energy saving, they've done analysis of that. And that was the reason why it was reduced to 30. So all these issues, the commissions will not just come up and take a decision. It always will have to take its time. Sometimes you will expect that maybe we'll come up with a tariff around some specific period. And the commissioners, mostly I will say that they are very independent when it comes to their decisions. So even the secretariat cannot influence when they come up with their decisions. So they look at, if they are not clear in their minds, the numbers they are seeing, and they need to do double check, they will not be hastening by the fact that we say we will do it around this time, so we have to do it. Mind you, various stakeholders were accusing the commission for not always passing the quarterly adjustments, and that was the reason why the utilities were bringing some higher percentages. And we promised, as part of the publication in the last tariff, that the quarterly adjustment was going to be implemented, and that is what the commission is just trying to do. He indicated there are 3 scenarios: no change, increase, or decrease. So depending on where the economic indicators are going, there is a possibility that we could have a reduction in tariff. So what we have to do is just to pray that at least
just to recap that, Al-Haj, are you saying there is the possibility that there could be a decrement in tariffs?
Yes. Yes, it's their indicators and parameters that we are using. We don't work in isolation. Inflation, exchange rate, and hydro. And like I've said, if everything had remained constant, maybe the inflation, the exchange rate, and hydro had increased, we would have seen some decrease in terms of rates, because hydro allocation has gone up. So there's a possibility that if exchange rate, the CD appreciates or the inflation comes down, there is a possibility that we might have a reduction. And it has happened. So let's not always look at tariff adjustments as just increase. So, and the commission has its own guidelines and its SOPs and operational manuals that guides their decision taking. So as commissioners, they just don't also get up and increase or decrease or whatever. There are some situations where there might be a changes even in the rate, but consumers might not know. They will just see a no change, but in between the value chain, maybe BGT, that is the bulk generation tariff, would have reduced or increased. But invariably, there is an over recovery somewhere. So if somebody has made more than what he was supposed to make, it will be given back to the system, to the where there is a shortage. So there are a lot of things that happen within the value chain that mostly the end user might not notice. So the end user always will try to feel it when there is a change at the end user rate, and that is where we normally have individuals talking. The first speaker indicated the civil society, and I think he had gone to our website and he has checked, and he realized that the PURC commissioners are a composition of various stakeholders. We have the TUC being represented, we have consumers being represented, we have the AGI being represented. So their membership, they are the decision makers. So they always look at the interests of their various constituents when it comes to decision makers. But if the numbers are very clear to choose, do we need to have electricity to use it to at least grow our economy, to use it to our benefit, or we don't want it? If you look at the sub-region, Ghana is, I can say, is one of the best in terms when it comes to electricity supply in the sub-region. We have stable supply, and it is because of the dynamics of the balancing act that we are putting in place. We know where we are coming from. We all know what Dumso did to our industries, what Dumso did to people's gadgets, what Dumso did to the livelihood of individuals and all these things. So we don't want to go back there. So as a regulator, what I would want to let people know is that even the decision takers, the commissioners, they also pay bills. They pay water bills. The secretariat staff pay bills. They pay water bills. The utility staff pay bills. They pay water. Nobody will want to pay. But it is so imperative that if we don't take such decisions, there is a possibility that we might not have the commodity. So we have to choose having it or not having it. And if we are having it at a minimal cost per the analysis the commission has put in place, then it is better we go in for having it and pay a little bit much. Looking at the economic...
I want to pose one question to you right before I go to Alexis Derry. But something interesting came to mind. You know, usually people would say, oh, parliamentarians get all of these perks. Ministers get these perks. Let me find out from you. As staff, crucial staff of the PURC, do you get any perks, any discounts when it comes to electricity or water tariffs in any shape or form? Do you get anything in there so that you are not paying the rates that ordinary people would pay? I see I've got you laughing.
Brother, thank you very much. You see, that is why I always will make people to know that some of us even live in rented places where we share meters with other people. So how can we get a place? So we live in communities. We don't have an enclave or a cluster of place that we live that is separated. No, we just live as ordinary people with other people, and in some situations we share the same. We share meters with other people, and we also pay the same. So it is a painful thing. But as Kofi did, I think he did a very, very comprehensive analysis looking at the data that we have on our website. And I don't have much to say when it comes to the economic indicators and decisions that have been taken. So I just rely on, I think, the analysis that he did. You know, so kudos to Joy team for that comprehensive. And we entreat other stakeholders to visit our website. The data is there. And once we look at it, we'll have informed the communications mostly.
Let me come to Alexis Derry. I'll come back to you on something tied to that, Alhaj. Just stay with us. But Mr. Derry, if you look at the exchange rate, some assumptions that were made, the last time we had an increment in September, not the latest one, September, you would notice that we're looking at a dollar rate of 7.51 to the Ghana cedi. That is $1 equaling about 7.51. That's the effective rate, looking at the assumption, and the inflation at 10. Then you look at the approved rates, effective the 1st of February 2023, and you look at the exchange rate pegged around 10.5, and with inflation hovering around 42.63%. You can make the permutations. Obviously, things have changed. If you look at September last year and the increment, putting that side by side with inflation then, which was also very high, inflation has gone even higher. So don't you think that if something were not brought to bear as far as the utility tariffs are concerned, this could have been very negative for the providers? What is your take? You may have to unmute, Mr. Derry.
I mean, yes. I mean, there's no doubt that if something was not done. Okay, I'm just saying that yes, it is true that if something is not done or was not done, the system will crash. There's no doubt about that. But for me, where I sit and the people doesn't change the equation for them, because if inflation dynamic changes and then they are only more most reliable source of livelihood, then to them it doesn't make any sense. And that is where I still have a challenge. I mean, as like a consumer, like Alaji rightly also said, I also pay, do all those things that ordinary Ghanaians equally go to. But I mean, the excluded, the most vulnerable, that is where my emphasis is on. And like the first question I asked, which went Alaji before Alaji came, I will be interested in getting education on to what extent do they make provision for these kind of category of people, more especially when there is a database that has now been made possible through the Ghana National Household Registry. So it is not like we don't know where these are. There are households, they have been classified. To what extent do we also take them into consideration? For example, I'm making this because if you look at the one of the objectives of the Ghana households is to make sure that they support institutional coordination to improve impact of spending on social areas.
Hello, Mr. Derry.
More importantly, we are talking about. Yes, can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay. So I am more interested in their situation because most.
Well, we have poor connectivity to Alexis Derry, Executive Member, Center for Development Initiatives. We'll try to reach him on the phone lines instead so we can have a fluid conversation without all the interruptions, technological interruptions. But while we try to do that, let me get back to Alhaj Bukari. What would have been the consequences if these tariff adjustments had not been brought to bear? We saw the requests that had been put forward by the ECG, by the Ghana Water Company Limited. 334% is what the Ghana Water Company wanted. 148% ECG wanted. But if you look at the variance in terms of what we've given them, very wide variations. 15.5 times less what we gave to the Ghana Water Company Limited. 6.68 times, practically some 7 times less what the ECG wanted. So what would have been the consequences if there had been no tariff adjustment?
Yes, that would mean that clearly we would have been building up our debt because somebody has to pay for it. And that is, I always will tell people that it's two ways. Either we socialize the cost for every Ghanaian who even that do not use light or water to pay, or to spread it across people who specifically use light and water to pay. Imagine a factory using electricity to manufacture something and sell. Then you now socialize the cost and say somebody who is living in a village where there is no even light to pay through taxation. We have to know that ECG and Ghana Water, NETCO, and GRICO, most of the VRA, which is also government-owned, are government of Ghana property, Ghanaians' property. So if we don't treat them effectively, at least give them the minimal. The reason why sometimes PURC is able to even have a bit less in terms of the impact, in terms of cost shifting, is because of their government of Ghana share, 100% share owned by government. Sometimes the government, looking at the economic indicators, can say, let me give away maybe my returns. A private man will not say, I'll give out my returns. Let's take the IPPs. Most of the cost buildup comes from the independent power producers, because for them, they have invested and they need to take their returns. So irrespective of the economic indicators, they will invoice you at the price that they are expected to invoice you. But with ECG, Ghana Water, NETCO, GRICO, sometimes the regulator has to look at, and sometimes we go beyond their management and their board to talk to even the shareholder through a position paper to let them know the implications if we are going to shift all the costs to the Ghanaian to pay. And these are some of the things. So if we don't pay, first of all, we might not even have the power available. And we know the consequences falling onto the alternative. That is, individuals have to get their own generator and get their own fuel to run for electricity. And That is those who can't. There are a lot of industries that cannot even have an alternative, because looking at the volumes of consumption, that means that they have to build their own independent power plant, because the energy need, it will be very difficult for you to get a generator, a small plant to be able to do that. So that would mean that they have to do a lot of capital intensive investment to get a plant that will be able to size to meet their operations. Then individuals
is that a practical possibility though for some of our huge commercial outfits? I'm talking of, you know, major entities, maybe even the likes of Tor. Is that the thinking that maybe we should be approaching for some of them? Would it make sense?
It doesn't make economic sense. It's possible, but it doesn't make economic sense, because that will mean that you have to build a whole power plant. You have to have engineers that will have to run it. You have to have people who manage it. So that is why, you see, the economic of scale, the more people on it, the less the cost. So that is why it is very important for us to keep the grid running very effectively. All of us realized before the last tariff we did, what was happening within the Kumasi enclave. The whole Ghana were having difficulty because the transmission network was weak. And since we did the tariff, you can see that they have done a lot in terms of investment into the infrastructure. And there's a smooth transmission of power to various. The distribution, I'm not saying that we have a very perfect system, but I can tell you in terms of reliability, we are doing above 80% in terms of reliability. People who live in the areas can attest to the fact. It is very difficult for people now to say that I don't have power for a whole day or two continuously. It is impossible from the data that we always see. Once in a while, we might have disturbances that happen as a result of some transformer having a problem or some feeder having a problem. And these are things that are quickly fixed by the utility. So let's try to maintain the network. And as a regulator, we have to keep the balancing. And if we don't do it, then we have failed as regulators, and we'll be failing the state and failing the nation as a whole.
Hold for me, Alhaj. Let me bring in Alexis Derry, who now joins us via the phone lines. Mr. Derry, you were making a point. Unfortunately, the connection did not allow us to grasp the thrust of it. If you could just go back and reiterate what you were saying.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, my point was that I am not too sure to what extent the vulnerable, and when I say the vulnerable, I'm talking about people who have already been registered, have been identified and classified under the Ghana National Household Registry. So it is like we already have a very, very, very effective and vibrant database in place. So I'm not just curious to find out whether their concerns, their livelihood opportunities, and their reliable source of income have always been taken into consideration in this tariff adjustment. And of course, I take it for granted that Mr. Ismail, who has a fantastic CSO representation, will always be making use of this resource. Because one of the challenges we have as a country is that we always have the resource created at the expense of you and I, with support from the development partners. But institutions, ministry, department, and agencies, they don't talk to each other. They don't make use of this data that has been put in place. And that, for me, has always been a source of worry. But I think that the increase, as we are all being told now, and from the data that your in-house person analyzed, we know that, yes, it's very inevitable. It's something that we can't avoid because the system will crack or crash if we don't have it. My concern is to what extent is government also putting in place measures to make sure that the sources of livelihood, and I'm more interested in the LEAP because for now that is our flagship program. The Minister of Finance made a very fantastic presentation in the 2023 budget. He said they were increasing the household, they were increasing the amount by about a very fantastic rate. But then the difficulty we always had as a country is that nobody tracks these fine promises in the budget statement because there's a difference between budget, approval, and releases. Let me give you a classical example. In the 2022 budget, an amount of 23,100 and something was allocated to all the Department of Social Welfare regional offices across the country. That is 23,000. That was their budget allocation throughout the 16 regions. One will want to find out, and if you want, you can double check to find out to what extent or how much of this 23,000, which was their budget allocation, how much of that was actually released, and when was it released? So it's something that we all need to track as concerned people and people who are advocating for the voiceless and the marginalized. Another challenge with some of these things also is the fact that, for example, if the Minister of Finance even release the money, sometimes when it gets to controller and accountant general, they also delay. So you can imagine if your source of livelihood, you and I are on monthly allowance or monthly salary, and your salary delay for 2 months. You know the implications. So these are some of the things that we need to keep an eye on while taking into, in good faith, the increases and see what about the vulnerable, those who are on leave, those who are not even captured as part of the leave program. So I think these are the issues that we need to re-echo and hope the Commission in subsequent adjustments and all that will always take this into consideration.
And it's interesting you make that point, because when you look at the lifeline consumers, the exclusive ones, if you look at the kilowatt hour and the Ghana Peswa payment or expectations when it comes to the tariff, you would see that for those who in September 2022 would be paying just about 42 pesos per kilowatt hour or 0 to 30 kilowatt hours, they would now be paying some 54.46 pesos for sale. So that would also put a strain. I'm not talking about the residential. I'm not talking about non-residential. I'm talking about the lifeline ones who are practically face the brunt of any radical changes in the prices. But I'd like to find out from you. The ECG and the Ghana Water Company Limited, even as these increments apply from February the 1st, people talk about service delivery. They are saying, yes, you're going to charge us more, but how better is our service going to be from your end? I would say this recently, I didn't really know. Since the ECG app crashed, so to speak, I've not been able to use it, but I was somewhere in East Legon and the lights went off. And a call was placed to the ECG call center about the situation. I was pleasantly surprised because I am told they are very efficient, and the person on the line addressed the problem, knew exactly where the problem was. Surrounding areas, there was some work going on, and that though regularly they would be able to tell you that within 2 hours or 3 hours, they'd be able to turn the light back on. This one, they were unsure. I mean, very detailed information, and I was impressed. But beyond that, in terms of service, are we getting what we deserve based on what we are paying for these services? Mr. Derry, that is to you.
And that again is something that we as consumers will need to take seriously. Of course, now there have been some improvements in terms of some of the service, and a classical example is what you have cited. But we also have instances where you call and nobody pick the call, or when they pick the call, they will tell you that okay, we are working on it, and for sometimes for days, for let's start from hours, for days, and even for weeks. So I think they must actually take a second look at their customer care, and then the communication between them and then the service user, because they are not doing us a favor. We are doing them a favor, even though to some extent the substitutes for electricity and water are very rare. But I mean, that is why we employ them. So I think that in terms of service delivery, effectiveness and efficiency are very, very, very key. It is not enough to say we are working on it. But if I'm sitting down waiting for the light to come for me to continue producing or to continue rendering other services because of the how interconnected we all are, it means that someone is going to suffer. And I think that is something that we must track. That is something we must actually be on the lookout and call those service providers and those individuals in the institution. We should call them out when and where they under-deliver or underperform. I think it's very important.
For you, Mr. Alhaj Abukari, so if you look at some of what comments people have been passing, and shortly we'll be hitting the streets as well to find out what the sentiments of people on the back of these latest tariff increments. But this morning I was reading from the Daily Graphic, specifically page 13. Here are some reflections on this development. A beautician, Kwesi Mensah, says these will impact, of course, there's been that general increment in goods and services, depreciation of the cedi against the dollar, the domestic debt exchange, and all of that Ghanaians have to deal with. And he says, things are tough and we're struggling to barely survive. This new tariff will increase the economic burden. This will be unbearable. We also hear from a trader in the Circle area, Auntie Jemima, who says, the cost of everything has gone up, and it seems government wants to just add to our misery. Already VAT is up, prices of food remain high, and now power and water too. If they increase the electricity bill, I will use Bobo, and we all know Bobo, basically the wick lamp, to cater for my daily needs. Those who need the light should go and pay for it. So quite some sentiments that are shared here. Very interesting reactions. What is you mentioned that you engaged stakeholders, the AGI, the TUC, and all of that. Were they in agreement to this increment, this level of increment? And generally, how do you feel this is going to impact the ordinary Ghanaian?
Thank you very much. I think some of these concerns are very legitimate because, like I have said, it's not easy for every Ghanaian. I can't pretend as if everything is okay and people will be pleasant paying any increase. But I'm happy that my co-panelists have been able to see that the increments is inevitable. If we want to have the electricity on, then clearly we have to at least do a bit of sacrifice and pay a bit more. Individuals, I think the vulnerable group he indicated, every organization in a way has its mandate. But as a PURC, I think we'll be welcoming any suggestions or engagement from any group of individuals or stakeholders who have some sort of legitimate concerns, can bring it up, and we can look at it. And maybe if it's even beyond our mandate, we can also refer it to the appropriate quarters to look at how best they can effectively address some of these concerns. But as PURC, the vulnerable group are treated within the lifeline category. But anything above that, then obviously it will be the mandate of maybe the social welfare or the ministry in charge of social welfare and the vulnerable, which if the group even have to engage with us as a commission, we normally will just have the discussions, and we can also advise appropriately what can be done to address it so that it will reduce the burden on the vulnerable as indicated by my colleague there. So for us, what I will entreat is that sometimes we pay for a lot of waste as individuals, apart from the industries that largely may not be able to find a way of, they have their machinery and their systems in place that they reduce their waste because they pay huge. But a lot of domestic users, sometimes we might not, I'm in the bedroom and I allow my sitting room fan on. Sometimes you might think that just 1 hour is okay, but it might be.
We've lost the connection there to Alhaj Abukari, but I think it was an important point he was making at the end there, that if you, let's say, leave the fan in your hall on for an hour, even for what, 15, half of the month, that would come with a cost. And so we also ought to watch it when it comes to some of those dynamics. Let me take some more messages. I'll run this by Alhaj Bukari when he comes through. And these are comments that people shared with the Daily Graphic. I just want us to digest all of them because some of them could reflect your situation. Consider, for example, so someone who says, from Kuforidia, some residents also called on the PURC to shelve the proposed increment to help prevent people from living on the very edge. That is what they say. They say, shelve it all together. We can't do this. Not at this time. But there are two more interesting ones. Ashale Ashite, a cold store operator at Temamanghian, said the increment in electricity tariffs would affect the price of frozen meat products. So he is into the meat products industry. But this one, I really want us to reflect on. A nurse, Patricia Anafo, said, it is very surprising that the government increased the salaries of public sector workers a week ago, and soon after, utility tariffs are also being increased. It seems the leaders do not want the ordinary Ghanaian to enjoy any relief at all. Do we have Alhaj Bukhari back? All right. If we don't have him back, is your thinking same? It appears Kola came and then all of a sudden, utility tariff increments also came. Mr. Derry.
I think that's a very interesting observation. Yes, Kola came and then utility tariffs also just dropped. It's quite intriguing. But of course, I mean, it's a very difficult situation. But I think sincerely, as Ghanaians, we don't want to get back to that situation where you will even want the light and you will not have it. It's a little bit difficult, but sacrifice is also very important sometimes. Of course, all of us are feeling it. None of us, including your very self and myself, we haven't received any subsidy, and we've not been hired to defend the PURC and the utility provider. But for me, I will again make a very direct appeal to the Minister of Finance that this time around, there is a vast difference between budget, approved, and releases. They should make sure that they double the speed at which the releases for the social protection in particular. That's the only source of livelihood that these people have. And when the monies are released and you go to controller should also expedite action. It is just like me who is on a monthly allowance or monthly salary, my salary delay for 2 months. You can just imagine any time at all those who are very active, very productive, our salary delay even for 1 month. Look at how we always shout at the top of the roof. But these people, most of them are very, very weak. They are not in any productive capacity again. They cannot march to the Minister of Finance. They cannot march to the Controller and Accountant General. And again, I also think that government, and it's not just about this government, successive government have paid lip service to social welfare services. How can you allocate a budget allocation of 23 Ghana cedis, 23,000 Ghana cedis for the department across the region, and you expect them to produce effective and efficient service? And for me, that is something that we should start tracking. It's not about this government. Successive government have paid lip service when it comes to social welfare services. And anytime we see the street children in the street, we see a mother is standing here, then we are calling on social welfare. We are calling on the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Let's do proper tracking of the ministry's budget and see how can let's put our money and resources where our interests. These vulnerable people are equally Ghanaians. They are my brothers, they are my sisters, they are our relations, and they also need to survive. So maybe Joy FM, Joy Multimedia may want to take it as an assignment. Just do a casual budget tracking of the Department of Social Welfare. If you don't have the resource, you can narrow it down. We are currently doing that kind of tracking of the Minister of Gender in all over the last 10 years, and to see the differences and to see how can we make advocacy real. Because these days, people think that you are just making noise, but when they get to know, for you, for example, you might not even be aware that 23,000 Ghana cedis was allocated to all the regions of social welfare. And that is what they were expected to work with. And the document is there. Just Google the 2022 budget, approved budget, and the ministry, department, and agencies, particularly social welfare in all the 60 regions. And you'll be amazed by how much of that was even released.
That is a staggering figure that you put out, and you're right. Some of us were not aware, but it's very heart-wrenching to hear some 23,000 Ghana cedis allocated to That is the entirety of your outfit across the country.
Yeah, I mean, each region was given 23,000.
Each region was given 23,000. Right. So that would be, if you do the math, at least for 10 regions, you would get about 230,000.
And even with that, how much was released? And when was it released? Maybe it might be the third quarter or the fourth quarter. And so what were they supposed to be producing magic? So we sometimes make a lot of noise for agencies like that to deliver on the unfunded mandate. They have the mandate, but the mandate is not funded. How do they deliver? Staffing is a key challenge. We are training social workers from the university, and we are employing gardeners and then landscape people to go to the district to work as social workers, delivering on statutory services that has been captured by law and say that a social, for example, you are not supposed, you or the police cannot interview a juvenile in the absence of a social worker. How many social workers are deployed to do that?
So those are some genuine concerns. We'll take your final comments. I would have loved to hear from Alhaj Abukari, but we do not. Okay, so Alhaj Abukari, if you can hear me, thank you so much for reconnecting with us. So we've had quite a conversation. I just wanted to find out from you, though, is it mere coincidence that we get a 30% increment in Kola, and all of a sudden there's a 29.96% increment in electricity and over 8% in water? Is it sheer coincidence?
Related at all. They are not related at all. These are two independent processes that has gone on, and yes, there could be some mere coincidence of that, but I don't think it is something that is is related. Electricity is completely different from the wage negotiations, and just as I've indicated, like my brother Derek, there is also social welfare issues that are completely different from the electricity. You see, the fact is that because for now, government is the shareholder for electricity companies and water companies, people don't see them to be limited liability companies. These are also just companies like a private man having his company. The independent power producers, because they are largely, over 60% of that one is largely owned by private individuals. But because the regulator do not interface much with them, or the public do not interface much with them, they don't know how the private participation is deeply rooted within the value chain of electricity supply. ECG do not produce electricity. They buy it from VRA and other private people to come and sell. So they can buy 1,000 cedis and come and sell it at 500. And that is the work of the regulator. The generation cost per the revenue requirement is a pass-through cost. There's nothing the regulator can do about it. The only time the regulator can do something about it is at the time of the bilateral contract, where they are signing the power purchase agreement. That is where maybe you can advise or otherwise. But once it's signed, that they are going to be delivering it to you at 500 Ghana cedis, that is something the regulator will always have to pass through and cannot vary until the two parties meet to vary it. But you, the regulator, have no power to vary that. So it's a pass-through cost. And if ECG go and buy, let's say, 1,000 cedis, they can come and sell it to 500. If they are selling to you at 500, then that means that the 500 has to be paid by somebody. And who is that person? The shareholder, the company owner.
We've gone past the days of major subsidies, right? And that was a problem. So we can't go back there.
That is it. You can't go back. And that is why we have this on the bills, people now paying other levies and all those things. And these are things that we have to look at. So as a regulator, we don't want to continuously be hurting to continuously delay. Like one of the comments said, we should just delay it. We should shelve it for now. Every day we don't implement, there is an under recovery, and that under recovery ought to be recovered because they will need that money to pay the private person who has sold the power to them. So that is just what we have to do. So the two they are independent processes that arrive at almost the same value, but not related. Thank you very much.
Alhaji Abukari, I'll give you 30 seconds for your summary comments, just to wrap up, and same for Mr. Derry, and it's a wrap. I'll start with you, Alhaji.
Yes, I'm very happy for at least for this platform, and Mr. Derry have made it very insightful in terms of the discussion. I think your in-house research person, maybe we will have to hire him as a consultant, a media consultant, because
we'll have something to say about that.
He has so much, yes, he has so much in-depth knowledge as looking at our processes and taking our own data. And I think what he did in terms of the indicators, the factors, what influences the decisions, the trend analysis are perfect. And like I said, it made my work very easy. I didn't need to go back to that because that would have amounted to repetition, because he has picked the data, he has done the analysis, and I think he has so much knowledge in terms of the regulatory processes. And such people should always try to help the economy, help regulators, and help organizations to be able to achieve the mandate. And at the end of the day, it will inure to the benefit of the entire economy, but not for us to make analysis that are not based on facts and figures. And I'm very, very impressed about. So my regards and kudos to Joy team and your in-house research team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alhaji Abukari, Alhaji Jabbar Abukari. He is with the PRC. I'll give his proper designation shortly. But of course, kudos to our in-house statistician, if you like, our in-house research man, Kofi J. Kudos to you. It is good that other entities are seeing what we're doing and lauding it. But let's take the final comments of Alexis Derry as well. Mr. Derry?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. For me, it was another opportunity for me to learn. It made it possible for me to go to the PURC website. And now that particularly I'm aware that there's a CSO person who actually have the interest of the vulnerable at heart, we will just get in touch with him to see how we can engage him the more and help him so that it will enhance the impact of some of these regularly announced increases on the vulnerable. And I think that Joy FM, your platform is unique. What you are doing is what we need to together do to advance the cause of the vulnerable and our social development agenda. I'm very grateful for the opportunity anytime I get the opportunity to make an input into it. So kudos to Joy, kudos to your in-house person, and kudos to my brother Alhaji. We will take advantage and we will engage them to see to what extent they are making use of some of these very important data that is available from the Ghana National Household Registry and then the LIP. And also finally to still make a passionate appeal to the controller and then the Minister of Finance. Please, any delay, anytime there is a delay in the payment of the LIP, you are not only impacting the individual, but you are impacting the household, and you are also impacting their dignity. Some of them, because of the regular assurance or the fact that they know that after bi-monthly they will get something, they are also able to actually use that to do some bargaining for some services. And when the money is not forthcoming, it brings their dignity into this and their credibility into disrepute. And I think that is something that we must all take very seriously. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Derry, for joining the conversation. So we've had Alhaji Jabbar Abukari, Director of Regional Operations with the PURC. You just heard from Alexis Derry, Executive Member, Center for Development Initiatives. And we had our superhero for today, the man Kofi Ajay, our in-house statistical analyst and research man. Well, right before we take a break and bring you AM Business, we know water is life. It regulates your body temperature. It keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. But guess what? We also have the perfect sizes for all occasions. 330 ml and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want a lot more. But we have more. We have introduced our special 19-litre jars for offices and homes as well. So all you need to do now is stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go, from small to big. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It is produced by Casa Preco. If you want to purchase in bulk, just call 0262 351 251. 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. Now, moving on. As we do every Wednesday, kind courtesy of EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, we're coming your way with AM Business. And what are we bringing your way today? We're exploring the aviation sector as some private investors want government to include them in plans to start the new Ghana airline this year. There's been a lot of talk about it. What is the way to go? AM Business up next.
Aviation is crucial to international business, trade, and tourism. Ghana's aviation industry has more than 20 aviation operators and includes those employed in the servicing of aircraft, management of airports, air traffic control operators, ground handlers, airport security, and immigration, as well as customs. The Minister for Transport, Kweku Ofori-Siama, announced that Ghana Airlines will start operations this year. But CEO of McDan Group of Companies, Daniel Macaulay, is asking for more engagement to ensure a robust aviation sector.
The whole world is turning into. The past year, 2022, had been a serious struggling year. And we saw things that we have never seen before in this country. We have seen too many things happen in terms of business. And I feel that the politicians did their best. The government did what they had to do. Right now, the selected private sector with voice must have some voice, with ideas. I'm a private sector driven person, and anything in the private sector works. I mean, the world is moving on, and Ghana, I'm one of the few people who think Ghana is still a socialist country. Yet we are using capitalist law to govern this country. So if you are a socialist country, you have to support such businesses, but it's difficult. So if we have to move to capitalism, such initiative must be headed by the private sector. If you're a private sector, very good private sector person want to start a Ghana Airways, a national airline, it will be very successful.
Managing Director for TAG Angola, Diane Chun, is asking for government to engage the private sector.
The ups and downs that you're talking about might be what? Sort of like fuel costs, yeah. It's like all industries, we are struggling with the rising cost of living. As you know, oil and gas prices have gone up, supplier prices have gone up, and what we need to do is make sure that our services are as efficient as possible, so our onboard product is efficient, and that way we're not passing on too many of these costs to the customer. I don't think the aviation sector is alone in that. I think all sectors are struggling with the cost of living crisis at the moment. What we're trying to do is to make efficiencies within our airlines so that we don't have to pass those costs on. Accra is an important market. Well, the whole of West Africa is very important to TAG. TAG is expanding throughout Africa, and we've got an eye very much on Ghana. Ghana is, we have very good relationships, very good diplomatic relationships with Ghana. What we want to do is improve those economic relationships as well. So for us, Ghana also, we see this as very much a gateway into Africa, because Ghana is a very popular place at the moment for conventions and events. So inbound tourism, inbound conventions, inbound conferences. So together we think our two countries can work very, very well together. We want to build those economic ties.
Ghana's airline is expected to operate as the country's national carrier following the decision to award Ashanti Airlines and its operational and financial partner, Zotus Group, a tender to commence business.
It depends on the market that you're in. So private sector ownership works very, very well in some places. It doesn't work as well in other places. Public sector ownership has its challenges also in terms of what we would call a legacy carrier that has maybe a lot of old policies and processes that haven't been changed in years because it's more difficult to do so. Whereas I think a private sector airline is potentially more able to react more.
Aviation will not reach pre-pandemic profitability levels of $26.4 billion anytime soon because we don't really see the gross domestic product growth accelerating. But according to the International Air Transport Association's chief economist, Marie Thompson, the industry will start seeing earnings in 2023.
The Ghana Airlines long-haul fleet could comprise Boeing 787 Dreamliners alongside Dash 8400 aircraft servicing its regional and domestic routes. Now, global airlines, according to the International Air Transport Association, are now expected to post a 9.7 billion loss in 2022, an improvement from a revised 42.1 billion loss in 2021. The 2022 forecast was nearly 2 billion better than an earlier expectation of an 11.6 billion loss.
However, Daniel Macaulay is lamenting the ineffectiveness of local content framework for Ghanaian businesses. According to him, a strong content base for businesses will create employment and promote growth of various sectors of Ghana's economy.
Well, you see, we have had a very weak local content laws and local content spirit. For me, if you look at, we can go the Nigerian way. You see, you go to Nigeria, local content is very strong. And it's also about time local businessmen supposed to have a big say in policy. And it looked like the whole business community is sitting back, watching on to the politicians and government to take decisions for us. I believe that it's also about time we support government. We support government with our resources and our ideas. So for me, we have to strengthen the local content base. I want to see solutions. We don't have to come and deliberate on problems. Immediately we meet like this, we should be having solutions. There's no need for us to come and sit down and talk about problems. We've gone past talking about problems. We, the businessmen in this country, must be solution-oriented, minded, so that we support government, we take government to somewhere. I mean, Ghana is for all of us. And whatever we do will have a serious impact on our own self. If we are here today and we don't do some of these things, posterity will judge us. So I believe that in our quest, trying to be big in business, we have to do to extend hands to help the poor. When I mean the poor, the vulnerable in the society. I always say I've never seen any nation built very resiliently if it is not the big boys. You need the big businesses to build a nation for SMEs to tap in. So immediately the big businesses start growing up, you'll get millions, thousands of SMEs just tapping in. It's like the supply chain. You move, you bring people along. Look, the whole Japan was built by 5 companies. Talking about Nissan, Toyota, Sony, you know the other 2. Ghana can be built by 3, 4 companies, and we'll be able to stand strong. So SME is the engine of growth in every country. Every economy, SME is the engine of growth, but you need the big boys. You need the big businesses so that the SMEs can tap into.
In November 2019, the Ghanaian government signed a provisional order at the Dubai Air Show to acquire 3 Boeing 787 Dreamliners. Ghana's airspace has been without a national airline for 13 years following the collapse of former national airlines Ghana Airways, which occurred in 2004, and Ghana International Airlines, which followed 6 years later in 2010.
And that was AM Business, courtesy of the Pan-African Bank, Eco Bank. Today talking about public-private partnerships as far as our new airline will be concerned. But let's now go to Bernice Abubeidu Lansah, who joins the conversation. We told you we'd be bringing some views off the streets on utility tariffs. Bernice, if you can hear me, what do you have to share with us from the Obra spot?
I've been joined by 2 of the taxi drivers here who would be sharing their thoughts with us. Let me first find out from you. So, what's your name?
My name is Prince Ajola.
All right. When you heard the news about the increase in tariffs, how did you feel?
Especially, I was very, very surprised about the increment because they have increased the price about last year, October, from September to October. And within January, ending of January, they say they have increased it to start paying in early February. I particularly, when I heard the news, I was very, very surprised. Usually when they increase the price of utilities, water, we don't feel it as such, but electricity, we feel it because when you buy electricity, within the shortest possible time, before you return from work, they say your credit are finished. So unexpected expenditure you have been making on electricity. But water, when you fill your containers, you know definitely that by 1 week or by the end of every week, I have to fill my things down. But electricity, we don't calculate the time it will finish. So this increment, I may say, I don't know, because they have increased the workers' salary. That's why they have increased it to that level. Especially we who are doing our self-business, the increment of these items are worrying our income. And so we who are doing our personal business or doing our personal work, we don't know where we are in the country now. We don't know in or out of the country, or what we are doing within the system now. We don't know what we are doing. If they break, we just be walking around without getting any aims or any hope.
So basically you're living day by day. You can't plan.
Yes, we can't plan because your income is lesser than your expenditure. Because we are living in a magical way. That's how we who are doing our business. Because those who are doing workers, they know that at the end of the month, this is what I'm going to get. So I can manage it on this one. But we don't know our income, especially we drivers. See how the fuel is going. Before the Christmas, they were shouting that they have reduced fuel. So let's reduce the price. When you go to the market to buy anything concerning about your work, everything have been the same. Now they have started raising the fuel again. So the fuel they have raised now, when I'm using 3 gallons of fuel a day, my chop money, 15 cedis will be going inside this thing. So why are we going? So the increment, especially electricity, is disturbing we the private workers.
Let me take your thoughts too, because he made a statement about he not knowing what has led to all of this. The PURC says that they have considered the economic conditions and even they have given the percentage way below what the utility or service providers requested. For water, for example, they were requesting almost over 300% for water, because the service providers also say that they need the money to provide the service that we need. The PURC says, look, I'm the middleman. I have considered the economic conditions and I say put it at this percentage. But how will this affect you?
Honestly, this is affecting me and us. I mean, if I say us, a lot of people are suffering. The masses are poor in this country. And sometimes the way this increment comes, I just don't get it. Within 2-3 months, increment will come. I just don't get it, my sister, because
But you know that the PURC does quarterly review of the prices, and sometimes they maintain the price. Sometimes, on very few occasions, they've reduced it. But like they say, the utility providers need to work. So probably you're feeling the impact because in the last quarter of last year there was an increment, and again in the first quarter after their review they've increased it again.
You see, my problem is that with water, I don't really have much problem with water, but with the electricity, because electricity. Maybe if I produce water, I use energy to bring out the sachet water and water. If the electricity is, we are paying more electricity for production. It will make things go higher. And I'm asking, those, there are some firms that you can see that belongs to the same politicians. Are they paying electricity bill? You ask yourself questions. Let me go off way a bit. Property rate. They own much property. Are they paying property rate? You see, there are some taxes that we have to be getting to subsidize certain things. We are leaving them, and they are pushing them on the poor. The poor man who is taking about 1,500, 2,000, and then when it's not paid his light bill, they will go disconnect the person. We should go to those people, siphon money from them to do their right thing, and come and save the poor. Unlike this, let me go off it again. Unlike this free education, how can you be earning 5,000? I will be earning 10,000, and I will be enjoying the same thing. Yes, you can afford, so you have to pay a little. The government will take part, you will take part, and then your part that you pay, you will be taking care of the vulnerable. This is just common sense.
So looking at this, which will take effect on the 1st of February, what is your personal finances? What is it going to look like? Your personal finances?
It's going to affect me a lot, because if I'm paying 50 cedis, I have to pay 75. And now let me tell you something. The moment prices, especially our fuel, goes up, people try to walk a particular distance before picking the car. And this is what I do to end my life, to take care of my kids. You understand? It reduces our work. Seriously. So now, the finance, sectors that have been brought down by this government, do help us more, this microfinance. You know, sometimes when you are broke, you just go there, they give you some injection, and then you just into your business. Especially, there are sometimes you have a problem with your car. You understand? You don't have money instantly. You fall on them, instantly they will give you. Especially like Parkway Indo. It's just here by us. They are always here. Have problem, you go there, they fix you up. And then you pay small installment. Look at them. They are no more. The system now, what these people have created now, it's a mess. I don't see any improvement. What is that kind of writer doing? Well, is he an angel? Excuse my language, where is Baobiantu? When the fundamentals of the economy is weak, the dollar will expose you. Look at the increment of the fuel now per liter. It's equivalent to $1 now. 13 CD plus. Where is he? I thought it's the most, how do you call it?
We are told that the gold for oil deal is on. We've received the first consignment.
It's a scam. It's a scam. What is the Tamari refinery doing? The toll levy that they've taken us. Where is it? Electricity levy, where is it? The toll levy. We'll all be paying. Where is it? Is Tamari refinery functioning? Is it functioning? Atamis came and started paying it. I thought from there it will be working by now. Where is it? It's been turned into a reserve that they bring it for and then they put in there. We can't refine anything yet. We have our oil there at Western region. Our part, where is it? What are we using it for? My sister, we are in a mess. So I'm telling you for today, these people, I'm not grown, but I've never seen any worse government than this government. I'm telling you this. Kufuor, if this is how Kufuor handle this country, will MPP party will be attractive for somebody to handle it, the baton to Nana Akufo-Addo and his people, the so-called magical team that they claim themselves they are.
But government says times are hard. They look at what's happening around the economy and the world. They cite COVID, for example. They cite the Russian-Ukraine war. But they say that they are putting things in place.
Don't go there at all. Money was given to this country. What did they use those monies for? They claim they spent 54,000 Ghana cedis in Accra alone. Did you get any water, a cup of rice in your house for free? They just cook Ghana rice and some egg and then share it for these boys around there. And you tell me you spent 54,000 Ghana cedis within Accra? What did they use the money for? And you see a whole pack of truck with oil going round within the town, and you don't know where it ends up. Why? We voted for this man. We thought he's a grandpa, that he knows the length and breadth of this country. My sister, you see, sometimes I just feel ashamed. I'm telling you, I don't feel proud as a Ghanaian any longer because I know how a Ghanaian we are. If you travel elsewhere, you meet a Ghanaian, you see, yes, this is a Ghanaian. We work very hard. But in fact, the Nana Akufo-Addo I know is not the one I'm seeing. I'm telling you honestly. Because I know he's a no-nonsense man. He's somebody who worked very hard. If I can tell you the businesses he brought into this country, that's why I like that man, you'll be surprised. He brought Mobitel, he brought DHL, he brought SGS. You understand? So such a man who is coming to stand as a president, won't you vote for that man? Because he has brains for business. The boys will be working. And one thing that he said that touched my head before most of them voted for him. The guy who killed himself at is it Algeria or Tunisia, burnt himself. When he was interviewed, what he said, he nearly wept on it. I said, no, this guy has something in him. But look at us.
So how are you going to manage, considering what is ahead of us? You've spoken about the increment in fuel. For you as a driver, you need to pay now more for water and electricity. How are you going to manage?
The problem is that you have to add something to your capital that you are working. Because definitely, when...
And where is that going to come from? Because you said the microfinance companies that help you are no longer existent.
When borrow, my sister. You know, let me tell you a funny thing that happened. This union that we are in here, you know what? We have a particular money that we invest at Republic Bank. Every year, that's what we do. We invest it and then we take it back. Last year, when we were going for our money, you know what the bank, Republic Bank, told us? They never give us any interest on their money. They deducted 11.2 Ghana cedis on our 50,000 that we put there. So you can imagine, we have to inject that money to be able to pay the guys. What have we done wrong? This money is at the loan that they've been going, that NDC was borrowing recklessly, which we all thought it was true. They borrowed more than any other government. What have they used their money for? I don't see anything. Yesterday, did you watch on your telly? I saw it. Western region. You see the overhead that is being constructed. It's been abandoned, no workers. Nothing is going on because the engineer said, how do you call it? IMF is coming for something, and then the Chinese too, they have some link with them, and then so they have to abandon the work. You go and see all this plenty money. Where is it gone?
So let me find out from your other colleague how he's also going to manage in these times. So how are you going to manage?
Okay, my hope is in God, not in a human being, because only God can cater for we, the ordinary people in the country now. We can't have anything to do because where we are now, the government can never assist us because where we get assistance from, those are the places where they are tackling now. From the microfinance, they have collapsed them. Now, those who are having bonds, who are investing in the economy, they are not targeting them. Then we, the ordinary people, where are we going to? So we only put our trust in God. Only God will let us pass through, not human being or this government. Me, Francis, I'm above 60. So I've experienced how the economy or how the political issues in the country, I've seen a little about what is happening now. So where we are now, our relatives at home, there is no hope for us to be sending them anything because we are not satisfied and then send them the reserve and send them the reserve. So what is happening now? Only God, we are only hoping.
A gentleman here wants to say something. Me patron na o bibi.
Na me cheze, mam good morning.
You're saying?
But your friend Nkola Ofi.
Nkola debi udi ankasa.
Bidiano Nkola Ofi.
Sana wa me de to Nkola Ofi. You matter.
The na me can say, omampeni nanado. Edwe ye ho, a o ti di den suma ye no. Ye no ma de ton for no moto ade no. Omo ne mama nte so.
Na say si afo no cry sa tumu bi.
O ma tumu kwa bo stina say mo ti se ta ko so mo te so. Na mo mo ahu yehim no mo so ere, omo ho nto omo. And so man, Omare, is here to fool Mune, but I say, I start to roll from Buma. On better to Madden.
Now, Siciano, you say you be increasing in fuel and electricity from the 1st of February. Into what show a brabo moi, send over see a manage.
Okay, it's out in there. Yes, you know. Omu to my said, yeah, like your tremor, yes, you are 100 and you better Musa.
Used to it. Okay, so he's basically saying that at this point, he's just used to the hardship, and so with the increment in water and electricity, he will just have to manage it that way. Let me speak to this lady and find out from her what her thoughts also are about the increment in fuel. Mami Michiao, Antiama, me pacho, what is Nyampa February 1st, no? Ya two in Sony electricity mo.
Okay,
and the no PRC. Omo share my ye pricing of electricity ni nsuo no. Sa no mo de aba. Nti sa wo hwa se na obesi afa amanage.
Se ne de ebe den kakra o. Ebe se da e ho de ne man koyie. Se fu a wobete so na anokura enra wo se won asangatom. Se wotutu ne mayimu nsuo ni light ni ade ya. Yensu 10 pesos for no. Yensu ye be den ne nya bi na yensu ye de achoko. Anani ameka na mebua. Enti nka fusa nka won manage ni sania. Oman no ye nyina kaka mere wane ni ade ye betimi atena oman ni na eja ye nga ye bojo ni ade na nka akoso. Se aba ni se bebri adwuma sai. Can not doubt be a Juma said, a higher way, or to Tagadiano. That's a way you be a way by the way by the way by the
So what she's basically telling me is that times are hard, and she says the people who sell here, they don't come anymore because the prices of ingredients and other things they need to cook have increased. She says times are hard, and she was hoping that at least they would maintain the prices a bit so that everybody will manage. She's complaining that the fuel that was reduced just a few weeks ago has been increased again, and so for her it's basically back to nothing, and then she wishes that the PRC would have managed a bit. Now, so about me, PRC say, and you remember why ding a cobia or more muyen na mauno or more generate electricity no almost so hardships no account into almost more. In fact, near electricity needs so for crabby no, and I'm near the more PRC a door so do near my ding Ghana for brain tea or what so cry. Inti and also so dream was saying,
Madame Show, share Majumaya, maybe share a 90 pesos, a 10 pesos. Says Amakom Junsa, 50 pesos. Ubatopia tobacco, 50 pesos. Unum just was Akakpo so 50 pesos. Madame, it's a dependent you never had minya, maye, any intense minya, Mafoka, Medidi, and now would tell you no crap. Aduane no crap we are doing saying enam. Say enam 4 cities in you 5 cities kra ya dum bi na wo channel kakra ma yen. Oh what is say one Sunday no be ka ho dia am say eniema no ebe ko soro pa.
So she says something very interesting here with the work she does. For those of you who are not familiar with this, so what she basically does is to change notes for the drivers here, and so if you bring 1 CD, she gives you 90 pesos, and then she keeps the 10 pesos, and so that's her profit. She says it's not anything really huge. Now she says if I drink water for 50 pesos, I go to the urinal for 50 pesos. She understands that yes, these utility providers also need something, but she would have been happy if the cost was not put onto the consumer. So we are wrapping up our conversation here at the Brass Spots, and I'll do that with one gentleman here. Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Emmanuel Jamina.
Emmanuel, what do you do here?
I'm a driver.
You're a driver. Have you heard that we are going to increase water and electricity tariffs from the 1st of February?
And they yati there, but this year no, you can best remember the phone. Says this is a new man who comes in. You drivers in the crowd no. They say no, you fuel as them. Any I can't say a Jumanaga Sans more thing. In the best rabbi because you want Colanson a family a show. In the best rabbi, so you never did this. Am I who cheer? In the best one was I got from you been found.
I was to say, I never more de no more and Sony when so. I'm so at the moment, almost he has a cacadia, you man when and Sony. Into I say, any night, China cracker crana, or be to near and yes, I saw ye.
Okay. This year, no more and penny for no, don't move for some bay and a boy to member for no.
Now one Casanca opera and can then person about general situation I won't see.
Oh, so this year, no, there will be a council of money more thing. I am Panso or money more and penny and Kuala will be soon. And this uncle be blue hot no more to my young Yankee intimate for no, like he will be to me after a class and can budget. Because you say Juma Sem Sika Sem Bibia Edin. Bibia Whiting, Angasa Ubiaka.
He's saying that the complaints about hardship, they're very true, and as a family person, as a driver whose work is heavily dependent on fuel, which has gone really expensive nowadays, he would have wished that government will do something about the situation and alleviate the hardship in the country. He admits, yes, that, well, yes, they also need money, that's the service providers, to provide what we need, but could there be something else that we could do about the situation? Well, so from the Obra spot here in Accra, I've been sampling the thoughts of Ghanaians for you. Drivers especially. The passengers are not willing to talk to us. In fact, I must say there's been a lot of rejection. People say they are tired, they wouldn't talk to us because after all, where does it all end up? But we managed to sample a few ideas and thoughts for you on the increment of utility tariffs, which will take effect on the 1st of February. Back to you in the studio, Benjamin.
And that was my colleague Bernice Lansah hitting the streets, specifically the Obra spot, and some interesting takes some of those drivers and members in that area had to share with us. We're taking a bit of a breather. When we return, we'll be talking about Breman Jamra and that school building that crushed some 6 children to death. What is the latest development there? We'll also be joined by my colleague Emefa Atiamwa Eli on the latest developments. Do stay. We'll be right back.
So we are currently at Breman Jamra DA Basic School, and this is where 6 years ago the unfortunate occurrence where 6 kindergarten school pupils were killed. I mean, the building they called classroom collapsed on them and their lives were snuffed out. 6 years on, that building has been completed, but there is another building here that is a death trap. The children have their hearts in their mouth whenever they enter this building. So look at the footings of this building. All of these things are removing gradually. They are being removed and the building shakes visibly. Get here. This place shakes. As soon as you hit it slightly, then it shakes. It threatens to break away from the entire structure. So the case do play. And unfortunately, if any of them should lean on this wall, then the unfortunate thing would happen. Now, when it rains, rain seeps through the roofing heavily, and so classes have to be disrupted. Academic activities have to come to a halt. The school pupils have been telling us that they feel unsafe. They are afraid for their lives whenever it rains, because when it rains, the entire building shakes very well, and they feel threatened, and they have the unfortunate occurrence 6 years ago on the back of their mind that something could happen. So what have you been learning today?
It is dangerous for us to learn in. When the rain enters the classroom will be very dirty here. So we don't want this class again. We want a new one. So we don't want this class. We want the other one there. We please them to help us this new building so that we can live comfortably in that new room.
Because when it is raining, our ceiling will be removing. The water will be coming inside this room, so we don't want this class again. We want a new one. We feel shaking. When the rain is falling, we feel shaking, we fear, so that the building will break in. So we want the government to build another school for us. We are telling them to come and help us to build the room because we are begging them to come and help us to build the building.
Fortunately, the multimedia group decided to embark on a project and then build a classroom structure that could accommodate the kids. In fact, the kids are crammed in classrooms and it makes academic work very, very difficult. So this is the entire structure that multimedia has been working on, and it has gotten to the roof level, and we need your support. We need the support of the entire country. We cannot wait for any calamity to befall kids yet again in the name of accessing education. And that is why this project ought to be completed so that the kids can move in from the dilapidated structure they currently call the classroom into this new one. 60,000 Ghana cedis. Building would be completed and ready to be handed over to the school.
At the moment, we are at the roofing stage, and all we need is the roof members to come, and then the sheet will be on it. Then we'll do the ceiling joint, get the doors and the windows fixed. Then we come to a final stage where the tiling will come, and then also the jointing and pointing for this finishing will come. Then we are done. So at the moment, if I have to estimate, I would say we are like 70% done. We're just left about 30%. But the energy is not coming, and we need help to be able to rescue these innocent kids. Because some of us dedicated our time and energy and our knowledge, wisdom, and then this technology to come in and support. It costs me a lot, but it doesn't amount to human life. I mean, if I go to bed always getting scared that what if something happens to these kids, they will go like, they started but they couldn't complete it.
That's what is keeping you on.
Yes, that is what is giving me the energy to still try to push so that we can get this done and then hand it over to the community. Because these kids, look, the last time I was here, when we were on site, when it started raining, before I could say Jack, the kids, all of them came into the corridor just because they were scared that the roof of the structure could be lifted off.
How much are we talking about here?
Like I said, if I should do rough estimate, we need a little under 60,000 because you're talking about the woodworks for the roof itself. We need a sheet, we need the windows and the doors fixed. You understand? And then workmanship, and then we need a ceiling or everything. That amount should be able to sort us out.
So I am appealing to you to help us, the multimedia group, to help with this project. Help us contribute your quota so that we will not be visited with any disaster. We will not come here to be reporting disasters, but we will be coming here to be reporting about the successes chalked by these students, because they need to also study in environments like their peers, like their counterparts in other parts of the country. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejonya-Akon, Breman Jamra.
And that has to do with our classroom projects. My colleague there, Richard Kwejonya-Akon, telling us about that incident in Breman Jamra and our endeavor with your support to put up new classroom facilities there. Joining me in the studio, we have our very own Emefa Atiamwa Eli, who has been on this beat from day one. Emefa, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning, Ben, and thanks so much for having me.
So tell us what the latest is. Richard has set the tone for the conversation.
Exactly.
What's the latest in terms of this project? What's the latest development?
The latest is that we still need more materials to be able to complete the project. That's because some of them, right from the start of the project, we couldn't have acquired them and kept them till now.
Right.
Talking about the wood and the roofing sheets and others, we needed to get to a certain stage before you start buying those things. But you and I know that times have changed. Prices of materials have gone up. And so our projections regarding the cost of these materials have gone up. That means that we'd have to revise our budget.
We projected and the dollar rate and everything changed.
Exactly, and it's really hitting hard on this project. And over some time, work has been a bit slow. That's because, yes, quite a number of people have promised. But then, you know, it's one thing promising and another than redeeming. So we have had to wait on them to redeem their promises. Unfortunately, they are not responding as we expected. That does not mean that we should sit and fold our arms. We need to still get the work going. That's why we are here today.
And I'm sure on the back of the economic downturn and everything, people would have made promises, but we also see the inflationary rate and everything. It's impacting them, but we have to push further.
Exactly.
Because this project must be done.
Exactly.
So tell us, what more do we need? Is it roofing sheets? Is it cement? What more do we need?
At the moment, we are at the roofing stage. So the wood is being laid on, the trusses is being laid so that they can put the sheets on it. We do not have adequate wood. The money we have to be able to buy the amount of wood we need to do the work is so inadequate. So far, as you can see in that video, that's all we've been able to do for now. And so we need more money. At least we need nothing less than 60,000 Ghana cedis to finish with the roof. And then we come to the doors, the windows, and you want to do the floor and put in furniture for all of that. And most of the support we have had so far has been in the form of cash and kind donation, as much as you can. We know that there are people who are already into these kind of materials, as in maybe they are selling or they produce them. So what we are asking is that in whatever way you can support the classroom project. This structure is a self-help project. We are only giving the two communities, that's the Brema Jamra and Tolon, the platform to be able to support, to solicit support for them. It's not like multimedia is building. We are using our platform because if you watch a story told by Jojo yesterday, Ghana Schools of Shame,
right,
it paints a picture of a very gloomy situation when it comes to the educational infrastructure deficits in the country. And this is one way as a company we are helping solve the problem. We might not be able to do everything, but we are saying that the little you can as an individual do or to support to be able to fix these challenges, it will go a long way to help school children across the country. The facility we are putting up,
right,
not less than 700 children are going to benefit from these.
700
school children are going to benefit from these structures. And so you wouldn't want to sit back. Kojo Naku said it rightly. Right from Brema Jamra, we heard a story about children dying because of bad classroom structure. We do not want to hear that story again. We can't sit and watch. And so we are asking that as much as you can help, the little you can do, you can give us roofing sheets if you are into doors, if you are into furniture, if you are into anything. I mean, we still need a little amount of cement, you know, just for the finishing work, the floor, the veranda, and all of that. We'll be very grateful. That's where we are now.
So you mentioned that we need nothing less than 60,000 Ghana cedis, at least to progress with work.
Yes.
But how much have we garnered so far?
Cash-wise, I'm unable to give you exact figure, but then from the top of my head, I know that right from the start, we got some support from DBS
roofing
sheet, yes,
right.
And so they wanted to support in terms of, but the amount they gave us cash instead of the sheets. They gave us cash. They gave us 20,000 Ghana cedis, and that was like a year ago. The space is a 7-space structure, 3 classroom block plus a library, an ICT center, staff common room.
So in other words, with the fluctuation in the currency, the 20,000 has eroded in terms of value.
Yes, we also got some form of support from Gapoha, okay, to be able to get some more, cement to finish with the work. That we've been able to do. Forestry Commission also supported us right from the start of the work with the wood we needed to do, the foundation, and every other woodwork you need right from raising the superstructure. And that we have exhausted. We have had, what's the name? Israeli embassy also supporting us cash-wise to be able, and it's some of the services, for instance, when it came to the bricklaying, we needed professionals to do that.
Okay.
So in that regard, you can't use communal labor as we had from the community. We had to engage
professionals to do it.
These people were from outside the community. In that case, you would have to pay them. So most of those funds went into those expenditure. And there are some other minor expenditure that you needed to pay for. So technically, we have exhausted all of those funds. Some have also given, the district assembly also gave us sand. Most of the sand we needed right from the start till date, they have been providing us with sand. But we are saying that just as you can see the structure on the screen, we still need more to be able to finish it. That's the situation.
And so even more is required to bring this to some conclusion. But I'd like to find out the old structure. I saw Richard Kwejo go around the old structure. Is it still in use?
Somehow, which is very risky.
Because he spoke about how shaky it was, and it's visibly eroded. It's being eaten away.
In the middle of last year, there was this time construction was ongoing and the children were on break. One of them went to lean against a portion of the block. It almost cracked on him. In fact, fell on him.
Wow.
And it took the timely intervention of the site engineer, the gentleman who spoke in the story, to save the situation. It was so dangerous. The building you see there, yes, you can see some kind of roof and like shade, but it's not safe. It's not safe. It used to be a 6 classroom block. They have collapsed the 3 of the classrooms, so now it is left with 3, meaning that they are cramming more pupils into the remaining space than usual, which is not supposed to be. The space is a cluster of schools. And so there are different, that also tells you the number of children, school-going age children in the community who need a safe learning environment to be able to get proper quality education. And you do not want to close your eyes over it. You don't want to say that because there is no space, some children should sit home or they should just watch. No, as much as possible, you want to give everyone the opportunity to be able to learn. Yes, you and I, we are not governments. But the truth of the matter is that government cannot do it all. We spoke with the Ministry of Education yesterday. The spokesperson was talking about how government has been trying to fix the furniture deficit across the schools. When you look at the figures it's given, it's woefully inadequate. There's more to be done. And the question is, how long are we going to wait for government to be able to satisfy all these schools in terms of what they need to be able to get the best education they need?
And that's why corporate entities must also come in.
Yes,
and this is our own little way of doing some CSR, apart from all the other things we do. So moving forward, the 60,000, how soon do we need it? I want us to know the that state of urgency of the situation. Of course, if those old buildings are practically caving in and the children are back in school shortly, it means it's pretty urgent. How soon do we need?
Ben, school has reopened. That means that there are children who are starting school, who are being enrolled. And the block you are seeing is a JHS block. So what happens if your ward has to go to JHS 1, JHS 2, and you get there and they say there's space, there's no vacancy?
They turn you away.
Exactly. And this is not your, how would I say, a cosmopolitan kind of community or a highbrow community. So if you don't make such facility available in such a community, where else would the children go to get education? That is how serious and urgent it is. School has just reopened. There are quite a number of these school children who need the space to sit and to learn, but it's just inadequate. It's just inadequate. So it's very urgent. We need as soon as possible so that we can enable all of those children who are waiting to get the space to sit and to learn. And not just any space, but a safer learning environment.
A decent space in which to, a decent and safe space in which to learn. I'd also like to find out, to those who promised and have not yet redeemed their promises, what would be your message to them?
So I want to believe probably they've forgotten how to make their
this is a reminder
available to us. There's a Momo account, a special Momo number for this project, which is an MTN number I'd like to share, is 05930388832. I'll take that again. It's 0593038832.
It's also on your screen.
Yes,
currently, you can.
It's an MTN number, and the name of the account is the Multimedia Group Limited. Feel free to send whatever form of donation, just in case you are not comfortable using the Momo transaction and you'd like to do direct engagement. You might want to call 0242 161570, 0242 161570. Alternatively, maybe you'd want to go to the bank and make a bank transfer. The number is, the bank is Access Bank Ghana Limited, the Castle Road branch, Accra, and the account number is 00901 010 54191. I'll repeat that, 00901 010 54191. Access Bank Ghana Limited.
And that account number is also on our screens.
Yes.
We're looking forward to hearing from you, supporting us. We've taken the initiative on the back of your support to give a new school building block, not just a building, a block to the Breman Jamra and Tolon communities. MFA Atiamwaeli, thank you so much for joining us for the conversation and for the good work you're doing on behalf of those communities.
I'm honored. Thank you.
So we take a little breather here. When we return, we'd like to find out from you, what is your take on this situation, for example? Our schools, many of them without desks, some children studying under trees. Yes, we still have a lot of those. We'd also be engaging you on your thoughts, especially on utility tariffs. Electricity up by almost 30%, 29.69% thereabouts. Water by 8.3%. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to your pocket? We'll be taking your comments right after the break. You're still live on the AM show. Welcome back. Let's take some messages. And the Ghana Revenue Authority wishes to inform the public that persons wishing to apply for tax clearance certificates should do so online via their website or download the Ghana Taxpayers app on the Google Play Store or the App Store. Applicants who visit our taxpayer service centers will be assisted by the officers of the authority to apply. Applicants are also required to indicate the taxpayer identification number, aka the TIN of the institution or organization requesting the certificate, so they can receive a copy. Applicants should take note and be guided accordingly. For further information, just call the GRA on toll-free number 0800 900 110 or via WhatsApp numbers 0552 990 000 or 0200 631 664 or send an email to gra.gov.gh for further inquiries. Let's stay with the GRA, which also wishes to inform the general public, especially persons registered for value-added tax, that the Domestic Tax Revenue Division has commenced the implementation of an electronic invoicing system of VAT, referred to as EVAT. This involves integrating the invoicing systems of VAT-registered taxpayers to the Commissioner General's invoicing system. Again, for further information on this latest development, just reach out to the GRA on toll-free number 0800 900 110 or via WhatsApp on 0552 990 000 or 0200 631 664 for further inquiries. And that's it for the GRA. You can call through and share your thoughts with us on the classroom project in Breman Jamra and the Tolong communities that we've embarked on with your support. And you can also share your thoughts with us on the latest increments in utility prices and other snippets of conversations we've been sharing this morning. The Ghana Airline, for example, after 13 years, we're hoping to bring it back. Dr. Daniel Macaulay says there should be a public-private partnership. Others have said, let's not even go there. What is your take? Call that number, 0302 211 691. 0302 211 691. If time permits, we'll also take some of your social media comments that you've been putting on our page. But for now, we await hearing from you. 0302 211 691. So we put that question there as well, since we're talking about education. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, says the government will provide senior high school students with electronic tablets. And we asked for your take. Let's see what some of the responses or the comments were that you passed on this bit. So the first one there from Christopher Abagna Ataguriga says, even the teachers whose money you took to give them laptops have still not realized them. Okay, so that's your comment. We shall take other comments. This one says, these students, I know, will foolishly embrace this without thinking ahead. Okay, so some of you speaking from some experiences we've had in the past. This one says, okay, so I don't blame him. He really understands and knows the tricks. He knows Ghanaians will fall for stuff like this. Okay, so pretty negative, the comments coming through on that post. This one says, okay, interesting. Give them good meals to eat. Provide enough classrooms and dormitories for all of them. Provide enough well-stocked computer labs for them. I see there is more that we can get from that. Interesting take. After all this, you can now think of giving the tablets, and a lot of them don't have these basic facilities. Tablets will look like luxury to them now. And that's a very important point. Do what is needed, the very basics, before you rope onto or latch onto other things, more sophisticated things like providing them with tablets, looking at their surroundings. Anyway, you can call through and share your thoughts with us. We have just about some 2-3 minutes of a window. God's Way says, what's the meaning of this? And you will see these, okay, so not very pleasant terminologies being used. Utsmart says, has he fulfilled rent he promised Ghanaians? So this bit, it's a thorny issue, that bit about rent, whether that promise was made. But nobody should take him seriously. Isn't he part of the mess created by this government? Investors have lost their business, individuals too. It isn't easy, the pain I'm going through because of bad policies. And Della feels aggrieved and doesn't know where this one is headed. So there's also Adam, who says, what's the essence when graduates are unemployed, when prices of commodities are high and so on? Can't you channel the money to solve those problems? He is proffering that we do that. Kunta says, this is a good move, but the thing is my challenge. The timing is my challenge. Let's hope for better. Still promising for more burden in this difficult economic times for this nation. Let's pray. Okay. Those are the comments coming through. Jacob says, Mr. Vice President, or Dr. Vice President again. So hasn't he learned his lessons yet? Okay. This one from Eric Mercer says, because of elections, look at what we are hearing. At the time, they are not having food to eat. At the time, the teachers who even paid for a laptop have not received theirs. So a lot of skepticism coming to the fore on this. And that is why with such projects, implementation must be brought to the very core, in terms of fulfillment, so that people will not feel too aggrieved when other projects are brought on board. It reminds me of the tax situation where people will often ask you, the taxes we paid, what have they been used for? And so if you're asking for more taxes or imposing more taxes and levies, what really can we expect? You expect more from us. What more will the state give us? Well, it's been insightful as always. It's been enjoyable coming your way this Wednesday morning, third day of the week. We can only wish you the very best as we gear up for Joy News Desk. But tomorrow morning, we'll be here again talking about topical issues, pertinent issues, issues germane to our national life. Thank you always for joining us. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and as always, I've done this together with Bernice Abubeidu Lansah. Let's connect again same time tomorrow. But up next, in the next few minutes, we serve you Joy News Desk. Stay.